Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Racecraft Simulations V8 Veterans here for Season 20, Round 7 out at Imola for our Italian double header. Last week we were out at Monza, this week we're in beautiful Imola for Round 7. As I said, 250 Ks around this beautiful piece of the world, best known, of course, for the incidents that happened in 1994 with Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna. It is a famous circuit for so many reasons, so much great racing, but it also has a bit of a tough pill to swallow as well whenever we come here. I'm your commentator here tonight, Hamish Munro, joined once again, as always, by Scotty Gamble. Scotty, big night of racing tonight, 250 Ks around Imola. It's going to be a tough task for these drivers. Anything worse, I think, could be doing 300 Ks. He's been given one hell of a workout trying to get through all these chicanes around here.
Yeah, how you going, Hamish? And welcome to all those tuning in on YouTube. Great to see everyone on board. Yeah, you're absolutely right. 250 kilometres around Imola. It is a long way, Hamish. A very long track, very technical track. Something that takes a lot of concentration to be able to get around there cleanly. We'll probably see a little bit of that tonight. Maybe a few off tracks here. Very difficult to get a clean race at Imola.
Well, we'll have a bit of a gander at the track map here for Imola, of course. Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Di Dino Ferrari here in the north of Italy. We're not too far away from where Monza is, actually. We're just out from Bologna here on the east coast of the upper part of the boot of Italy. We trickle our way on down to check out this beautiful track here in the Italian hillside. It is, it was a track for a long time, Scotty, that I wanted. I wanted this on a Formula One calendar, and then we finally got it, and we've had some fantastic racing in the years since. We started, of course, on the main straight, down towards the basically non-existent turn 1 before we come into the hard braking zone of turn 2 and 3 for Tamburello. Then out through Curva du Laranjillo for turn 4. A fast-paced little section, a tough technical part of the track to start us out, Scotty, and one that we could see quite a few off-tracks happening, but also quite a few incidents happening here tonight, namely on lap 1.
Yeah, absolutely, Hamish. Getting into turn 2 there is an overtaking opportunity, and we could see a few incidents involved there. But as you head up out of 4 into Villeneuve, 5 and 6, it's another one of these ones where you've got to set that car up. It's quite fast. You're exiting in 3rd gear, you get up into 4th as you head down into Tosa. A very tight left-hander there, Hamish, where you've got to really get on that throttle nicely, apply that power, use all the track, try and get that exit all the way up the hill through 8, another non-existent turn really, into 9. Now, Piratella is one of those corners where you think that you want to take it really wide, get on that green Astro, but that will cost you time. So you've got to keep it in tight, keep it inside the boundaries, and get that run as you head down the hill.
It's very deceiving is turn 9. You come up to the top of the hill and you're like, oh, crap, there's a corner there. I've got to try and make this and slow the car up. And then try not to also run too wide and cop one of those off tracks at Piratella. Then the fast run down the hill from 10, 11, and 12 into 13 for Acqua Minerale. It is a fast-paced little section. Again, very, very easy to get off tracks through there. Very, very easy to lock brakes if you're braking slightly too late. Getting in the gears incorrectly, you can also compression lock and end up on the left-hand side of the track where all carnage could break loose. So we're up towards Variante Alto for turn 14, 15. Another spot on this track where we can see some massive carnage here tonight. If drivers are not careful, there could be some big bingles happening through there. Then the fast run down towards the final couple of corners. Juncal for turn 16, the Ravazza for 17 and 18. And the fast run out of turn 19, another non-existent corner until we get across the line. That section there, we could see some big moments. Drivers have to remember, you've got to be able to get on the brakes pretty much as you get into turn 16. Otherwise, you're going to be locking. You're going to be running it too deep. You're going to be ending up in the sand at the Ravazza, and you're going to be trying to recover that car in a spot where it is so hard to get a clean rejoin as drivers come flying through 17 and 18. It's going to be on for 250 Ks, Scotty. 4.9 Ks around this track. This late's been used since 2008. It was changed after the incidents that happened with Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna in 1994. 19 turns anti-clockwise, of course. And what a test it's going to be for these drivers. 250 Ks. My forearms are hurting already looking at this and thinking, how in the hell are these middle-aged titans going to run around here for that long?
Yeah, it is absolutely an endurance race in itself. I know we've got a 300k next week Spa, but this is an endurance race in itself there, Hamish, and hopefully we can go green the whole way. Safety cars may give drivers a little bit of a break in it, but it's a tough track. We've visited many times, Hamish, over the years in the V8 supercars, and it has been a bit of a favourite of, say, like the Scops calendar for endurance rounds. But yeah, tonight here in the V8 Vets, it's going to be tough. I'm really looking forward to who's going to be able to master this track, who's going to play the long game here and, you know, take their time back in, back out. There's a little bit of fuel saving to be had, a little bit of draft down that front straight as you head into 2. The gearing, Hamish, on this set, the fixed set, has been talked about a lot during the week. Yes, you can run a little short on your gearing, but it does set you up through the mid part of this track with that gearing. So it'd be interesting to see how drivers adapt to the vehicle set tonight and how they go about utilising that rev limiting factor and whether they're on the rev limiter or whether they're just backing off a little bit and saving a bit of fuel, mate.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough task. You mentioned Spa next week, Enduro. At least with that one, they do get a reprieve down the likes of the Kemmel Straight and up towards Blanchimont. It's not going to be, they're not going to be on it for all 300 Ks. They will get a slight reprieve at that track. Got a big end coming up in the season, Scotty. Last 2 rounds after this week that are droppable. Spa, the Enduro, Road Atlanta the week after, and then Retro round for the final round at Sandown. Undroppable round, of course. So much action to come throughout this season. It's going to be filled all throughout August of who's going to win this championship, how these drivers are going to be able to contest around these tracks that they have on offer to them, and who's going to come out with the chocolates in the end. But Imola, it's a tough task. It's a track that you are on it almost the whole lap. You get no chance of reprieve. I did some laps around here earlier this week. It was a tough task to get a clean lap together, especially for someone who hasn't done many laps in a supercar in a long time on a consistent basis. I haven't raced the supercar since I raced in Devs on a consistent basis, so it's been a long time. But I do like having a crack out there at certain tracks, and there are tracks that I am comfortable with, the likes of Bathurst and where I've done many, many laps. Imola is tough. If you have never been here before in a supercar, it is tough to wrap your head around, and it is tough to get into that rhythm, because this place, it'll break your rhythm super, super easily just by one mistake, just by one wrong riding of the curbs. It can break your whole rhythm, break your whole mindset, and it can hurt the way that you are approaching this track going forward. Qualifying is underway, though. We'll wait to see who's going to go so well in qualifying. Then we'll get into our grid of course and then into our race. Got a heap of chats out there already, Scotty. We've got a heap of people chatting with us here tonight. Troy Sybil, Luke Ullman, Sean Cullen, Andrew Hoffman, Will Munro, all saying g'day to us. Dane Palmer, back in Oz. Great to have you back in Oz, Dane. And watching again with us here tonight, John Gallen. Jacko was mentioning how bad Sydney's playing at the moment. 72-8 almost at half time. So obviously the Swans are pretenders at the moment. Dean Logsdale, Mick Clifton, Phil Whiteman out there too. Great to have you all in here with us. Great to have you all joining us once again for some incredible action of the V8 Veterans here in Season 20. We have to give a big shout out to all of our series sponsors. Racecraft Simulations, our title sponsor, as well as Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Chubby Buns Burgers for providing us with the Driver of the Day award, Logitech G, Play One Sim Gear, Südspeed gloves, and Nova Simsports as well. They all help us get on track. They all help support the series, and go give some love to them if you guys haven't already. As you will not only supporting them, you'll be supporting us as well by doing so. But Scotty, where do you think the mindset has to be for some of these drivers coming out of qualifying? If they're not able to get up the front, if they're maybe towards the back, how do they need to approach maybe the first, 5-10 laps of this race before they really get into their rhythm, before possibly their first pit stop up towards the lap 18 mark?
Yeah, I think if you don't get a lap in, we've seen some guys not get a lap in split one there that you normally would see within the top 10. They didn't quite get it right. Maybe got an off track or something like that. But, they did manage to get through the field pretty well, Hamish. So I think they were quite aggressive in their approach, but also they took their time and picked their locations. Like we talked about, turn 2 is a really good passing opportunity. As turn 10, 11, 12 as you head up there, that's a really good opportunity as well. But I do know, Hamish, if you don't get it right, you can take an excursion onto the sand. I was guilty of that a couple of times on Thursday night myself, mate, where it was very easy, just lack of concentration, just lost that little moment. Maybe it was a blue flag or just distracted slightly and bang, I was on the sand, and you can drop 2 seconds just like that. So drivers are going to have to be on their game. Something we were talking about early, Hamish, before the broadcast was how many drivers are up there within a shot at this championship. So this is a really one of those rounds they want to get good points at and really, want to do well if they're going to progress with only another 3 rounds after this.
Yeah, I think, we're getting into the point now where our major players are on offer, who are really realistically going to be the challengers for this championship. There are drivers out there who can challenge for race wins, but perhaps not challenging for that championship podium. Some of those drivers, they will be still challenging for a top 10 to get up in the split one of the season. I'd be interested to actually look at who's on the bubble actually coming back down to speak to that when we're close to the final round, knowing of who we may actually have to play with this next season, and knowing who's actually going to go out in the split into the next season as well. So it'll be pretty interesting to break all that down going into next season, of course, but I think we have to speak about some of our major players. John Gallen, Steve Lane, Brett O'Brien, and even a couple of others out in the field who are proper contenders at this point. Michael Plain, he looked like a championship contender as of round 1, and then he just hasn't been able to put the pieces of the puzzle together throughout the whole season. He hasn't had consistency at all, and he was struggling for it. Chris Burridge could be a bit of a smoky if he can have a good couple of rounds up coming across the next couple of weeks as well. So there are these big names up there who are at play for this championship. Scott Mackay as well, of course, fresh to Evolution Racing Team as of last week. He could be a challenger for it. There's 5 or 6 names who can win this championship who are in contention. They just have to have 3 solid rounds or 4 solid rounds including this week. They want that championship to achieve. It's realistically going to come down probably to Scott Mackay, John Gallen, Steve Lane, or Chris Burry. Brian missed a couple of rounds. I'm not sure if he's going to make all of them. I think those are the names that I mentioned. They are the chance we're speaking about at the end of the season. In round 10, we're all battling it out for a championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be that tight where bonus points that the Veterans League has on offer is going to come into play as well, Hamish. You can pick up those bonus points, get a clean lap, lead a race lap, get the fastest lap, get pole. All those sort of extra bonus points you can pick up throughout the race really does add up, adds your tally up, and can give you that advantage at the end. So I think that'll be in the driver's mind, Hamish, on how they go about, and especially those guys you talked about, they're going to be thinking of that and how they can use that to their advantage, especially at a track like Imola. It's interesting because the tracks that we've got to come, they're well-known tracks. They've been on the server for quite some time, apart from Sandown, I guess. Sandown, it's still been there a couple of years now, but yeah, we all know these tracks pretty well, I'd say. So it'll be interesting to see how those drivers and their approach go from here forward, especially tonight.
Well, we have 250 k's to race tonight, Scotty, so we've got a lot of time to fill for that race. Well, it's going to be over very, very soon. I guess, what do you think some of the fuel strategies might be tonight? Looking at, do you see some drivers maybe going for a bit of a cheeky undercut? Of course, the lap home, pretty much, you can get home from the critical lap 24. It's quite an early time to stop for such a long race. You'd have to be doing 28 laps on one set of tyres if you were to come in on that lap. And it is dependent on your fuel usage. So if you're a bit more heavy on the throttle, your critical lap may be pushed out to lap 26, lap 27 even. We see drivers maybe coming in the first 20 laps. They can only get about 20 laps out of the initial 80 litres. Some drivers maybe come in within the first 10 and then look at coming in around about that critical lap and doing the longest stint at the end? Or do you think it's going to be maybe important that they try and extend those stints out as long as possible so then they can have a short run home on fresher tyres with less fuel in the car and able to get the most out of the car?
Yeah, I would, pending safety cars, if we went green within the first stint, I'd expect especially the top 5 drivers to go as long as they could, within a lap or two of each other. Perhaps if you're from 10th position to 20th, and you might think about a little undercut to get some clean air. You might have fuel save for that first stint, and so you can really capitalise with that undercut and your fuel usage. So it will be interesting. Like I say, safety cars will come into it. You can make it home from around your lap 24 onwards, 25 onwards, and it is a big ask, especially here, Hamish. That right rear tyre, that's the one that cops the pounding. That's the one that really struggles for traction. So yeah, I would expect to see that sort of strategy from the top 5 guys, go as long as they can. Perhaps on the stop, they might take a little bit more than, say, half the fuel load required. They might need around 130 litres. So you might see them take 70 to 80 litres in that first stop, Hamish.
Well, we'll see how it is all going to play out. I know in my calculations this week, it worked out to around about maybe 69 litres to then maybe another 66 and a half roughly. For people who are using a bit more, it might have been an 80 litre initial stop and then a slightly smaller stop on the second. And that was pretty much splitting it. I normally go through and make about 3 strategies, for the regular split strategy, the undercut where you take slightly less on the first, and then the early safety car strategy where you come in and you just fill the car as much as possible and then you see what you got left in the tank at the end of the race. But starting grid for tonight's race, of course, will be as follows. It'll be Scott Mackay starting on pole position for Evolution Racing Team ahead of Accelerate Sim Racing's Jason Spriggs in P2. 2 of our fastest drivers in the field. Luke Ullman and Chad Weiger will make up the second row of the grid. A great qualifying there for the Team AJR driver in P3. He'll start ahead of the Angry Birds entry of Weiger in P4. Lorne Mackay and Steve Lanyon will make up the third row of the grid ahead of Chris Burridge and Dean Logsdale. 2 AJR cars in the top 10. That's an incredible effort for them here in our final leg of our Italian doubleheader. Peter Verme and Ed Fox then make up the top 10 with Matty Scholes and Robert Crow just missing out on the bubble in the background. We then have Troy Sybil, Mick Clifton, Adrian Zeal, John Gallen making up the top 15. Brett O'Brien, Andrew Hoffman just outside the 15 with Damon Fisher, Ray Smith making up the top 20. Simon Farrington, Daniel Sheriffson start P21 and P22. Stacey Boyd, Roy Clark make up the top 12 rows on the grid. We then move back to Todd Duggan, Brendan Zatira in behind, Michael Quain, Peter Latham, Wayne Shepherd and Jamie Peters making up the top 30. A poor qualifying from Jamie after a great couple of weeks in the qualifying sessions. Michael Yeo, Brett Taylor in the top 32, with Peter Baxter, Sean Cullen in behind. Jeremy Bush and Scott Weston then make up the top 36 cars on the grid here tonight. We then move back to Matt Stoyles, Will Munro on his return to the series, and on his birthday on Thursday. So happy birthday to you, William, for Thursday. Scott McKenzie, Reece DeGoey, and Sean Vandermeulen in behind them to make up a massive grid here tonight of just about 40 drivers. And it could get spicy into turn one with that many out on track, Scotty.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like you say, special note to Luke Allman, Team AGR. P3 on the grid, second row. Absolutely fantastic qualifying by him. Really good to see, as you said, by Will back after drinking all these pina coladas while he was overseas. Good to see him back in Victorian weather, and he's in the chat there. And shout out to Will. Good. Be looking forward to seeing how you go tonight, mate. But yeah, could get spicy down into turn one, Hamish. There's a couple of drivers out of sync to where we would normally see them. Sean Vandermeulen, maybe he didn't get a qualifying down. We've been seeing him quite lately in the top 15. He's been driving very well. Team AGR, Dean Longstall, he's in P8, so that's good for him. That's a really good qualifying. He's probably been down on sorts of late, but to see him up there into the top 10, really good to see. So this is going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to Hamish. We're just about to go green.
Mate, we are not too far away, only a couple of seconds till the lights are going to go up for this race. I think, interestingly enough, Brenton O'Brien, John Gallen did not qualify in the top 15, so that may be a tough run home for them here tonight. Stacey Boyd outside of the top 20. That's going to be a tough run, but it's Mackay and Spriggs on the front row of the grid to start this race here tonight. Will we get the carnage we expect down towards turn two? Let's see. Mackay has absolutely bogged it up off the start. He's dropping spots early as cars in the background are all over the place already, Scotty, as we come down towards turn two. And we can see a heap of drivers, and there's already one around in the background. That's Michael Yeo, Sean Cullen. Munro's been involved as well in the return. And a big shunt early on here down towards turn two.
Wow, that was a massive shot way back in the field there, and unfortunately for Will, he got caught out into it. But at the moment, Jason Spriggs has got away. Unfortunate for Mackay, but he's followed closely by Chad Viger, Steve Lanyon, Lorne Mackay, Chris Burridge. So, yeah, those top five drivers all made positions off the start there, Hamish.
Oh, it looks like Ed Fox, Matt Scholes have gone round at turn 7, as well as Roy Clark's had an off-track too. So the drivers are here, there, or everywhere at the moment. They did get a pre-race talking from Race Control. It was quite stern about some of the racecraft they've been having the last couple of rounds. We'll see if it's going to keep nice and clean at the front end of town though, but the back end, they've just been getting caught up in amongst themselves. They're getting overlapped with themselves as they come down towards the final chicane for the first time. The Parramatta Alta, or Variante Alta, I should say. Andrew Hoffman's had a quality start. He's already up 4 spots here in behind Adrian Zeal, as they look to make some gains in this race. Brendan O'Brien, he's already up 5. Gallen is up 6 inside the top 10. Vandermeulen's had an off-track in the background, so they are struggling at Imola, and I think it's proving that how tough this track can be, how tough this race can be, Scotty. And I don't know if all of them are going to make 250 Ks around it here tonight.
Very, very difficult, especially coming into that turn two. Everything just snowballs back. We've got a couple more cars off at the moment. We've got a Phoenix car off, and who else? A Player One car there as well.
And Skulls. And Skulls is going straight into the lane, so this will not count as a compulsory pit stop. Munro's also in, so is Vermi. And so all those guys will have to do 2 more pit stops in this race. They will not count as compulsories, as they have not technically completed a green lap before coming into the pit lane, but we have not had a safety car called just yet, as Spriggs is looking to run away with this thing early on, Scotty. And Viger's under all sorts of pressure right now from Steve Lanyon, who we've spoken about as being one of the proper contenders in this championship. And he's looking like he's going to get a good chunk of points again here tonight, as his closest competitor for that title, John Gallen, he's all the way back in P11 at the moment.
Yeah, Lanyon's been driving absolutely beautifully. Comes on very strong halfway through the stint, and he's all over Chad Viger at the moment. This is beautiful pictures that we're seeing. He's having a look. He's really putting Chad under some pressure. So I hope Chad's they're not going to hold each other up and just let Spriggsy out at front there and accelerate Sim Racing car. Just skip away. They've got to stay in touch. There is draft ahead. You can make 2-3 tenths in the draft around here, Hamish. So even if that driver is that little bit faster, it can keep you in check with them. So these drivers at the front, they've got to be careful. Don't let Spriggsy get away.
That's right. Lorne Mackay's putting the pressure on them as well. He's back in P4. Burridge makes up the top 5. Ullman's had an absolute shocker off the start. He's already down 3 spots back into P6. Scott Mackay, he is down 7 spots right now and back in P8 on the road as they cross the line to start lap number 3 here tonight. There's the top 36 cars on track. Jeremy Bush is the 36th in the standings at the moment. Jamie Peters, he looks to have his blinking issues once again. Unfortunately, we're going to see his name moving all about tonight on that timing tower if this internet connection does not fix itself for him. He's got his teammate Wayne Shepherd just ahead of him at the moment, looking to move on up the field. He's got Peter Latham. These guys have been around each other quite a fair bit this season, Scotty, and they've been having some great battles in the mid to back into the top 10.
They absolutely have. Latham, Shepherd, Peters, Fox. Wayne, I think, has been probably one of the most unluckiest drivers. He had a lot of trouble that he probably shouldn't have been in this season. Like we talked about, he's got the pace to be there, but yeah, that internet for Jamie down in Rye, I'm not sure it's school holidays there, mate, so I'm not sure what the internet issue is going on there, but he has got the blinkers back on again.
Yeah, his car is coming in and out like an eyelid, just blinking all over the track right now. And these guys are going to have to be careful of traversing around him because they just don't know where he is. They can't predict where he is on track. So hopefully he either pits early. He has done a clean lap, so he can come in and take a compulsory. He's done a green, so he could come in early, get out of their way. Hopefully he can make it into the race if he is blinking so bad and just get himself out of the traffic. And he might even get a gain from it, just being on some clean road and actually not having to defend or attack anyone.
Yeah, I just took note of Jason Sprigg. He's put the foot down, Hamish. He just set a 142.668 last time around. He's just about to cross the line. Does a 42.757. He's 3/4 tenths than anyone else on track at the moment. So he's absolutely flying.
He has sent this thing into a whole other stratosphere right now, and Chad Weiger appears to have missed the shuttle into space here tonight. He's just unable to catch up to him. Safety car would pay him massive dividends here tonight. Lanyon as well, we know he's got pace, but he just can't find a laneway past Weiger. And that is, again, it's one of the most difficult things about this Imola circuit is you have to try and force the pressure on your opponents. The opportunities are not going to come flying at you. You have to sometimes just take a deep breath, do a bit of a swallow, and just send it. You just have to send it sometimes. It has to be a consistent and precise send. You have to line it up. You can't just, boot it down the side of them into turn 2. But if you line it up, you predict it, you wait a couple laps, you can get it done. But you have to set yourself up for it. You cannot just go for it. You can't just sit in behind the whole race because you're never going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I absolutely love a good send there, Hamish. And you're right, you've got to get the drive off the corner proceeding or 2 corners proceeding where you want to set that overtake up. So it is all about setting up that overtake, getting into position as we're coming up into turn 17, I think it is down here. You can actually get an overtake done on here, but you have to be committed. You have to commit to the overtake early, show that you're going to do it, and set it up 2-3 corners before. But as we're looking at the moment, Lorne Mackay, another driver, drove absolutely beautiful last round at Monza there, Hamish. Finished in P5. He's up to P4 at the moment, sitting right behind Lanyon.
He is at the moment. As we come up to lap 5, we're just going to take a moment to pay our respects to Andrew Hoffman's brother, Tony, who unfortunately passed away earlier this week. We're going to mute our microphones in honour of him this lap and sit on board with Hoffy for this one. Don't go anywhere. from myself and Scotty, we hope that Tony is watching down in honour and proud to watch Andrew cut laps still in the Vets. We wanted to give our condolences to you, Andrew, for that one. As we look ahead to the rest of the field at the moment, a bit further back, we have some tight battles occurring. We mentioned it before, Latham and Shepherd. These guys have been like water to a towel recently, just unable to get off of each other. Fox is in behind them as well. As we move on back, we have Zatira battling it out with Roy Clark. He's just trying to chase up to the back of the moment. Mackenzie has got Bush onto the back of him as well. Will Munro has come out of the pits. He has fixed up that car. He has used the fast repair, unfortunately. So that means that he's going to have to try and run a super clean and consistent race for the next 46 laps or 47 laps to try and get anything out of this one. His teammate Jamie Peters has come into pit lane. He came in on lap 5, Scotty. So he has actually got a compulsory pit stop out of the way. We wanted to mention before, Lorne Mackay, a couple laps ago on lap 4, was the only driver to get into the 42. So Lanyon is getting held up right now by Viger because Mackay is closing that gap rapidly.
He absolutely is. And another early stop on lap 6 was Dean Logsdale from Team AGR. That was an early strategy stop there. Maybe he felt he was getting held up, was going for some clean air. But yeah, absolutely. Lorne Mackay, a couple laps ago, absolutely setting the timing sheet to light. But as you say, Lanyon's getting held up a little bit here by Viger, and that's really allowed Jason Spriggs. He's skipped away. He's got a 2.8 second gap out to Viger at the moment. Looks like Chris Burridge, another one of those drivers you said who's in the hunt there. Oh, we see him get a little excited on that throttle too, Hamish. Very easy to do. He's lit those tyres up. He'll have to settle them down. But he is making good gains as well at the moment. So interested to see Scott Mackay. He's back up in a couple of positions as well. He's into the 42.6s at the moment. Only car on track into the 42s that lap around.
I just wanted to point out that Steve Lanyon's gotten into the chat and put some absolute blasphemy out there towards you, Mr. Gamble. He said, "Have a good call, lads. I'm at the MCG tonight. Scott Gamble, go Pies." That disgusts me as a Lions. That disgusts me as a Lions fan who had to watch the Pies beat us in the grand final last year. I'm sure it also disgusts you as a Blues fan who's currently gritting your teeth and biting your nails back to the nub, hoping that the Blues actually win this one.
I am, especially after watching them kick 8 points in a row and then watching the Pies put on 3 goals. I wasn't very happy. And before the call, I had to go outside, take a breath. But yeah, give us a score update there if you can, Stephen. Good luck down at the MCG. Shame about the Pies. The only good pie I know of is a 4-20. But anyway, back to the racing, mate. And like I say, Lanyon, he is all the way back over Chad Fox. He brought the pie right up. I think Lanyon's got to get this job done soon, Hamish.
He has to.
Like what you talked about, he's got to start sending it.
I think the old Lanyon needs to come back. He just has to shoot the half and just have an old slap shot into the back of the net at this point. He cannot afford to sit behind Chad Viger any longer because Jason Spriggs is going to run away with this, and he could win by 10, 15 seconds if he doesn't decide to pull the pin. He just has to do it. It has to be calculated, of course. We know that he's been so much more patient this season, has Lanyon. All he needs to do, though, is just line it up, calculate it. Where do I think I can get this done on Chad? Now, Chad is a very defensive driver. We know this. We know he can defend very well. But we also know you can crack him under pressure very, very heavily. We've seen him make mistakes in the past.
That was a big lift by Lanyon coming down into turn 2 there, Hamish. He had a massive lift. He's in fuel-saving conservation. He's just using this at the moment by the looks of it. But you're right. If he wants to get ahead and challenge Jason Spriggs, he's got to get on it. But yeah, he's having a big lift. I could see it right there in that in-car view.
Maybe that's the plan. Maybe this is just a whole new Steve Lanyon that we've never seen before. He's fuel-saving, he's patient, he's calculated. What has he done with the Steve Lanyon of probably 4 seasons ago? What has happened to him? I don't even know. I don't even have an answer for you. This is a completely different driver than we've ever seen on track. And he is getting the benefits for it. At the moment, we've got Troy Sybil. He's battling it out with Mick Clifton at the back end of the top 10. They've got John Gallen on the back of them as well as Brent O'Brien. So big pressure on Sybil. He has really started to get back up towards his form of old, Scotty. He's not quite maybe where he was back in the likes of season 14. Although in saying that, he is actually quite quick compared to the season 14 split 2 drivers of that period. But there are a lot faster guys in here now. He has to find some pace. He has to up his game to get up to the pace of the front end of town. So he's still quick in comparison to the season 14 split 2 guys, but now he just has to raise it up and try and get quicker and match those guys at the front end.
Yeah, just there's only a few tenths in it, Hamish. There's not much, and he's been very consistent driver throughout the season. We're always seeing him floating around that top 10. He's got a couple of top 5s. He's been in that Chubby Buns Driver of the Day award a few times. Just hasn't quite cracked the code for it. But this is a really interesting battle pack from Clifton, Sipple, Gallen, O'Brien. Very, very tight there. We know O'Brien's going to be on it. Hoff's just behind him as well. But yeah, this is going to be a really interesting battle pack, and the strategy call could really sort out where these drivers end up tonight, because they've lost touch of the guys in front. They're in their own battle here. They don't want to get caught up too much. So I'll be looking for Brenton O'Brien. I'd expect he'll run as long as he could here, Hamish.
Yeah, what I think now the likes of O'Brien and even Hoffman and Gallen and Sipple kind of have to try and do. They have to try not to get into a battle too much, because they can't be guaranteed they're going to get a safety car. I think what they have to do now is they have to plan for the race. They have to plan, let's get a clean race and let's get to the final 10 laps where we can push on and hope that our clean, consistent running has paid off, and that the guys at the front don't get caught up in a battle, they get caught up in an incident. It's very clear it could happen. I mean, they're in a tight battle at the moment, as Scott Mackay's now gotten past Luke Ullman into the Revatsas at the bottom of the hill. But I think that's what the plan has to happen. You try and make up some spots when you can, run a clean and consistent race, save a little bit of fuel if you can as well to make up time in the pits. And if you get a safety car, it'll all come up beautiful for you. You'll get the chocolates in the end. Because as the old cliche says, to finish first, you first have to finish. I think that's the mentality they have to have right now at the back end of the top 10, because Spriggs is running away from it. They just have to hope that he makes a mistake.
Yeah, they do. And Scott Mackay's absolutely flying. The lap prior to that one there, he was back into the 42s, mid-42s, by the way. So he's got the foot down. We'll see him get on the back of Chris Burridge very, very soon, next lap or two, if we don't see any mistakes. But yeah, he's real shame he went backwards at the start. Just didn't quite get it. But, he's pushing ahead. So if he keeps at this rate, he could be a contender towards the end of the race, mate.
Well, as we look on ahead, of course, we have a couple of drivers in the back end of a good battle. Todd Duggan, he's currently trying to make moves past Simon Farrington. Farrington's almost getting a little bit like a cork in the bottle at the moment. He's got Sheriff's Boyd, Shepherd, Latham, Fox all following in behind. Quain's not too far off the back of him as well. If he's not careful, he may end up dropping some pace here to Zeal up ahead of him. And Duggan is trying to get past him as soon as possible if he can, because he doesn't want to let Zippy fly away.
Yeah, he most certainly doesn't. He's looking racy too, Todd Duggan, right behind there. The Faz has been driving absolutely beautifully this season. He's been caught up in a couple of incidents, Hamish, but otherwise we've seen him well inside the top 20 for a lot of the races, and a couple of alternate strategy calls by him as well. Probably didn't work out his way, but for him to come back this season after having a season off, he's absolutely driving superbly. So yeah, really looking forward to see how he'll come under this pressure from Duggan, who was also been driving very well in that Nova Simsports car.
We'll go on board with Duggan now as they come round onto the main straight. Faz is just trying to hold on to this position as best he can. Give him his credit, he's made up 4 positions in this race. Duggan's up 7 at the moment. Those are genuine positions that they have made up. Now we're looking ahead to the pit stop times coming up. I'd say we're probably around about maybe 4 to 9 laps until we get to a pit stop. I couldn't really see anyone coming in this early. I mean, apart from a couple of drivers already have. I mean, Peters came in on lap 5. He has to try and get now into the mid-20s just to get home. I don't know if I see anyone coming in this early unless Duggan tries to go for a massive undercut on Farrington.
Yeah, I couldn't see it either. I'd say around lap 14 we might see some undercut strategies come in, but I'd say most drivers will try and step it out to 17, 18 potentially, Hamish, depending on their fuel use with this 80 litres. But yeah, this will be interesting. I'd say we're a few laps off before we start seeing a few early drivers get in there. But the pressure at the moment from Duggan, we did see him have a little lift down there. He didn't want to get on that rev limiter as he came down the straight. So he's in a little bit of fuel saving as well at the moment, which is good to see the drivers in Split 2 bringing that into their game. We've seen a few of them doing it at the moment. So they're really bringing that sort of strategy and that into the game, which you've got to do in these V8 supercars at times. There's a time to use fuel and there's time to save fuel. And at the moment, looks like Duggan's quite content saving some fuel.
And as they save fuel, they're also saving their tyres as well, because they're not pushing the car as hard as what they would be if they were going full belt. So that's also another positive of them actually being able to save some fuel too. What I say, ask Shepard about fuel saving. Yeah, I like to point out, I make a fuel strategy every week, Scotty. Wayne Shepard somehow finds a way at every track to use 0.3 of a litre more than everyone else is using per lap. It's ridiculous. I've got no idea how he does it. Doesn't even translate to lap times either. He's just somehow using more fuel than anyone else.
Well, Wayne Shepard sounds like my man, because every time I see Simspeed's fuel calculations, I'm always like 0.2 above maximum. So, yeah, absolutely. Me and you, Shepard, don't mind a drinking fuel. It's there to use. We're not giving it back to the team, that's for sure, mate.
Kind of wish he did. He might save me some money. But, he's got, Peter Latham, he's had quite a consistent season, always around about P25, even up towards the back end of the top 10 this season. He's got Fox trying to get around the outside of him now at turn 7. I don't think he's going to get the drive out of the corner to get this done up towards turn 9. He's not. But yeah, Latham is he's been one of those consistent runners right in the mid pack, and I think he is becoming one of those split 2 regulars that we've spoken about previously, where I don't see him dropping down. I don't really see him going up either. But I think he'll bide his time in split 2. He'll get some good skills out of it, and I think he will be a top 10 contender at some point in season's future, maybe even in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been very consistent there, Hamish. He hasn't set the scoreboards alight with his times, but his race strategy and race smart has really shown it. And sometimes that will pay dividends, as it is there with Peter at the moment. It's good to see his son was racing in Split 1 last Thursday. Got himself a podium as well. Hamish hasn't had much practice apparently, but got himself up there. So yeah, both Lathams, father and son racing in the V8 Vec.
Well, we'll see how they go in future seasons. Daniel Sheriffs is the first driver to jump into the pits right on the start of lap 13. So he, in fact, has come in a couple laps earlier than we expected here, Scotty. He could quite possibly be a bit of a master stroke on him, but could also hurt him a little bit in the end. John Gallen's trying to line something up on Troy Sipple. He's getting impatient now, waiting to get past him. Luckily for Steve Lanyon, he has gotten past Chad Weiger, as Weiger has somehow dropped back into P7, so something's happened to him that we missed out on, and that's now released. Lanyon, Mackay, Burridge, Mackay, and Ullman all past him and able to chase down Jason Spriggs, who's currently 5 seconds up the road from P2 and Steve Lanyon.
Yeah, then that's a big loss there too. He's a long way back from Orwin, a good 1.9 seconds behind. So something's gone drastically wrong there for Chad Weiger. So very unfortunate. He was racing beautifully in P2 for quite some time, but I wonder whether we'll see him do an early pit stop now. The only concern I have, Hamish, with people doing an earlier cycle pit stop is where they'll come out in traffic. We've had a few people pit early. They came in for some repairs, others by strategy, by design. So if you can feed back out into clean air and pit around about now, yes, maybe you could make a couple of gains there. But looks like he's going to continue on and try and get back on the back of Luke Ullman here.
I think Chad, if he can have some good clean laps now, in that clean air, not having to defend, not having to attack, we can maybe see him coming in, maybe lap 16, come in a bit early, get the fuel in, get some fresh set of tyres on, and then push on in the clean air for a couple of laps, and hope you can make up some free spots as the other guys pit, and hope that they may actually go a little bit longer. Lanyon, he may go super long now to try and counteract Spriggs' gap that he has and try and catch up to him a little bit and hope for a safety car before lap 20. I'll have to see if that's going to pay off for him, of course. But I think Weiger at the moment, he's on the edge of, do you go for the undercut, do you not? He's got plenty of gap in behind. He's got 9.5 seconds back to Mick Clifton right now in P8. He has time to decide on what strategy he wants to play and how much of a gamble he wants to take in the strategy play here tonight, as Mackay has now gotten past Burridge to try and line up Lorne up ahead of him.
Yeah, talking of people that we think could be within the championship in seasons to come, I think Chad Weiger is a definite contender. Once he gets a little bit more consistency to his races and keeps that confidence that a genuine believer to be in the top 5 week in, week out, I do think that he could challenge for a championship here in Split 2. Time will tell, and I've been impressed with the way he's driven at times lately this season, Hamish. So I'm looking forward to him growing and going even further. But as you say, Mackay has got up into P4 there. He's not too far behind the other Mackay, and Lanyon is on the hunt. He's right after Jason Spriggs at the moment. There is a good 5-second gap between the two.
There is, and this is where Spriggs is actually copping some lap traffic, and you hate to see that. Matt Scholes, season 18 champion, all the way back in P39 on the road at the moment. He's just taken his first compulsory stop of this race. Technically it is his second, but he needs another stop to get the compulsories done. Damon Fisher's now in. So we are well into pit stop strategy here, Scotty. And do you think Spriggsy goes long on this one since he is so far up ahead? Try and build the gap as much as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. If he can clear this blue flags in front of him there, yeah, go as long as you can. He's got a good lead. Why wouldn't you go use it? Even if he drops a second or so behind the blue flags, it's not a big deal. He's still got a really handy lead. Absolutely go as long as you can, then get into it and come out, hopefully, then in clean air and maximise that fresh tyres with a full fuel, or I'd think maybe around the 70, 80 litres of fuel.
So that's the gap at the moment between P1 and P2. You can see Spriggs is at the top of the hill in the distance. So he's only just coming up to the Variante Alta. There he is. And there is Steve Lanyon in the background. So that is what the gap looks like right now between P1 and P2. So Lanyon needs to get his foot down right now. Needs to try and catch up to him as best he can. He's going to have to deal with the lap traffic as well. But maybe the plan is now, maybe Lanyon comes in. Maybe he does an undercut, tries to counteract the lap traffic, gets out of the battle that he's in. Maybe gains a second or two on Spriggsy. And hell, even a safety car may even save him at this point, as well as Mackay is all over the back of him. He's got a Mackay double in behind of Lorne and Scott. They've got Burridge not too far behind. Ullman and Viger are still there. So this little six-way battle for P2 on the road is well and on as we get onto lap 16 of 52. We're right into the pit lane strategy now. So we'll see how this is going to pay off for everyone as Lorne Mackay is trying to send this up the inside of Steve Lanyon at turn 2. Is he going to get the job done? He is in the Accelerate Sim Racing machine. And Lanyon needs to be careful not to lose out now to Burridge and Scott Mackay. Burridge has got the position back. He's now back into P4. Mackay's now back in P5. And Lanyon, well, he must be back in fuel saving mode because he let Lorne have that quite easily, although we are early doors in this race already.
Yeah, this is turning into a beautiful 6-car train here. I was really surprised at how well Lorne Mackay was able to keep up with Lanyon, and as you've seen, sent it into turn 2. Lanyon didn't fight it too much. He had to sort of defend as well to stop Scott Mackay coming through on him, who actually ended up losing out to Burridge. So, yeah, really interesting racing there, but they sorted it out lovely. They kept on it. They didn't lose too much time, but what a battle pack this one's turning out as we're getting closer and closer to this first stop.
Well, Burridge is now in the midst of this pack. He's right in the middle with Scott Mackay, the other middle slotted driver, and Lanyon's just ahead, as well as Lorne Mackay. We'll see when any of them are going to come in the pit lane. A bit further back, we've got the two Racecraft entries of Shadow Racing of Peter Latham and Simon Farrington. These guys starting to work together. Ed Fox and Wayne Shepherd have now managed to make their way past them, as well as Stacey Boyd. So we'll see how this battle continues on. Boyd and Shepherd, those guys have also been around each other quite consistently this season, as Scott Mackay is off the track at the Ravazza corners. And he all of a sudden is now out of that battle. I think there, Scotty, seeing as he had that off track, he should have just come in. He should have just come in. He won't give up too much time if he had a slowdown or anything like that. I think his best option then was just to bring it in, get the fresh tyres on, get the fuel. He was right there at the pit entry. He probably may lose a bit too much time now if he stays out for much longer than he would have done if he'd come in just then and there.
What was interesting, the lap before, we've seen him have a little front right lock-up into that corner as well. And that time he's had another lock-up. Full excursion. I can attest with your strategy there, Hamish. It's exactly what I done when I went out there landscaping and had a little play in the sand. And I sent it straight into pit lane after that to try and minimise the time loss. You know, that you do lose quite a bit of time there. But I think he will just push on now. He's not too far behind. He has got outright pace at the moment. He is, when he's on, he's absolutely flying. So if he can push up, we might see him get on the back of Viger very soon.
Oh, that's true. Scott just tells you can't pit with a slow down, you get a penalty. This is true, but do you get a slowdown for running wide there, Scotty?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
But maybe he picked up the inside curb. just prior to that corner, and perhaps that gave him the sled in.
Very possible. Very, very possible indeed. But you can see here Viger's still keeping his pressure on at the moment. We'll check back to them in future. We're back to some of these other battles. Hoffman and O'Brien, they're still working together a little bit. These guys are almost the fuel-saving genies in the track. They just know what to do. They know how to save fuel, and they're going to be working together for this one, I would say, to try and gain as much as they can. Ray Smith has had a great start to this race. He is up 8 spots, and it's a P12 at the moment now. A lot of those would have come from pit stops, but he's having a nice, clean, consistent run after an unfortunate end out at Monza, where he ended up hitting his own teammate and then towing back to pits without permission. He's got a bit of war wound on his car at the moment, but he's having a nice, clean, consistent run here tonight.
Yeah, he has. He's driving very well. You might be able to explain his dashboard there, or his flag there, Hamish. I'm not sure, being we're in the Olympics mode at the moment. It's not an Australian, it's white.
So that's a Scottish flag. He actually comes from Scotland.
There you go.
So what's interesting is when he joined the team, they asked me, we might need a translator for him because he has actually got a very thick Scottish accent. And I said, yeah, no worries. We get to Daytona, and he's like, oh, can you tell me when the safety car comes in? I'm like, yeah, sure. Do you want me to translate it for you as well to make it a bit easier? And he's like, yeah, sure. So as soon as safety car goes away, I get over the radio and I'm just like, safety car is coming into the pits. Safety car is into the pit lane. Green flag will be up soon. And they all just lost their minds because they thought it was Ray.
Yeah, very nicely done. I didn't know he was Scottish, but yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't you have some fun with that? But yeah, driving absolutely beautifully, Hamish. We've seen a couple of drivers go into pit lane then, but yeah, up 9 positions on track. Actually, the Simrigs, your team is driving very well tonight with Wayne Shepherd up 15 as well. Yeah, a couple other incidents throughout there, but I'll be interesting to see, who was I looking for, where Jamie Peters is going to feed out in after this pit stop. This is going to be very interesting.
Well, I've just noticed something. That is Hoffman on the side of the track. You can see him parked up there at the top of the hill. And I think it will. This is going to trigger a safety car. Lanyon, Burridge, Ullman, Viger have all come into pit lane. There it is. There is the Racecraft Simulations safety car coming out on track. So they have gone in accordingly. And who's going to get caught out by it? Jason Spriggs and Lorne Mackay, because they have stayed out. So is Gallen, so is O'Brien, so is Smith. But Spriggsy now needs to get a wriggle on because he needs to come in the pits. If he does not pit, it'll be win over, gone, done and dusted. He'll end up at the back of the field.
Yeah, everyone's got a pit now that can pit. They can't make it home from here, Hamish. So those guys who have done a stop cannot make it home. Would you come in and turn this into a 3-stopper right now, Hamish? That's another strategy. Come in, fresh set of tyres, a splash of fuel, chuck in your 20-odd litres. That's going to give your last stop a real advantage on less fuel to take. So possible 3-stop strategy on for a couple of those early stop drivers.
I would just like to point out that Hoffy is lying in the chat. He's claiming this is his first ever blown engine. That is incorrect, Hoffy. I recall at least 3 other times hearing you over the radio get over and say, race control, I need to tow, my engine's gone. I recall it happening at Hockenheim before. So that's not the first time you've done it. It might be the first time you remember, but I recall many a times previous that you have done it, unless you might have been saying some porky pies previously. As Spriggs brings it in, we expect Mackay to come in as well. And Simon Hayes with the comment of the night so far, Hoff saving a lot of fuel now because he's not using any of it being parked up on the side of the road.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Hoffy there, but Strike and Livery that he had on tonight, really liked it, and was an excellent tribute played to him. So, I guess he'll get the tow. Hopefully he gets back on track, still gets circulating. You never know, Hamish, that you could get back onto the lead lap. There could be further safety cars. So hopefully he does. I'll be interested. Let's see if Spriggs comes out in front here. He easily should. I'd imagine he will come well and truly out in front of the other drivers that did it earlier. But
interesting enough, Scotty, not all drivers have actually filled the car. And my mindset is, right, you get a safety car, it's a free stop. Surely you just fill the car. You're not giving up too much track position, you're just giving up timing tower position that you will make back when you take your next stop, and it will be a shorter stop later in the race. Like, am I wrong for thinking that taking the longer stop under safety car is the better option than taking a short stop and trying to undercut at that point, because you're not actually gaining any on-track time. You're all going to be bunched up together. You're all going to be in the line together. You know, Burridge has taken a shorter stop. Yes, he's now jumped the likes of Lanyon and Viger and Lorne Mackay. The problem is he's going to give up that time now in the second stop later in this race.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think he took quite a bit of fuel there, Sprigsy, because he just got out in front. The blue cone was the safety car merge line, or pit lane merge line. He just got out in front of Burridge. There wasn't much in it, maybe a car and a half length. But there is two ways of thinking with that, Hamish, and that strategy of this safety car. Yes, you can fill up 111 litres, get as much in as you can. It's going to shorten your next stop. But also, if you're one of these front runner guys towards even in the top 10, you really want to maintain that track position because you've got that outright pace. So if you have to take 90 litres at the moment, perhaps that 10 seconds or that 8 seconds that you'll lose to the others, you'll make that up on track if you go green for the rest of the race. And that's if you go green. So yes, you do have to take a gamble with that, but it is there is a couple of strategies there that can play out with the shorter fuel stop or track position.
Yeah. Just catch on a couple of chats. Hoffy saying his memory is shot. That's fair enough, Hoffy. I do not forget. I do not forget some of these things. The most random stats I will remember. Dane Palmer saying, hang on, was Hoff wearing a flanny shirt? It just clicked. He was, yeah. He had a flanny on his race suit. Casual dress mode. John Gallen's given the running play-by-play on how his race is going to some of the chat, which we love to see. We don't mind having a bit of play-by-play in the chat. It means people can keep up to date with some of the drivers we may not be focusing on at this very moment. Gordon McCulloch in the chat as well. Great to have you out there, Gordon. Roy Clark is still getting in the chat as well. Steve Grumley, can you give us people stop time, Hamish? I sure can, Mr. Grumbles. How they pit stop last time, or how the pit stop went last time. Oh, wait, we need to do this so we can actually read it. Give me a second. There we go. You can barely read it, but it's there. So it was a 33.8 for Sprigsy. Burridge was a 26.4. Mackay was a 27.4. Lorne Mackay was a 33.4. Viger was a 36.7. Lanyon was a 41.48. He took a real long stop. That's good strategy by him. Ullman, 39.6. Sheriff's 25.6. Smith, 33.5. Clifton, 36.2. That's the top 10 pit stop times across that last lap, or across that last pit stop when they came in under the safety car. The longest pit stop was Roy Clark with a 42.51. He gets. Actually, no, I lie. John Gallen. 43.72.
What I can tell you is Spriggs with a 33.8 second stop. That's going to be around about 80, perhaps 85 litres he's taken on there, Hamish. The likes of Gallen, it looks like he's filled it to the brim at 43.7. That's a long stop. So if we're going to average around that 31 to 33, that's around your 80 litres, give or take, 5 litres or more, So that's where I think Spriggs is filled up. Will play interesting. Like you say, Lanyon's in a really good spot here. He's put on a lot more fuel. Yes, he did drop behind Viger, did drop back behind Mackay, and Mackay again, and Burridge, but if he could stay with this group on this restart, we could see him push forward come the second round of pit stops.
We could indeed. What we will do is, since we are in the safety car, we'll take this time to take our scheduled Racecraft Simulations advertisement break. Get ready for some beautiful pieces of kit brought to you by the Perth local Racecraft Simulations. We'll be back very, very soon with more live action when we get restarted in this race, but don't go anywhere. All right, great to be back after that lovely ad break brought to you by Racekraft Simulations, of course, based over at Perth Airport. If you live in the WA area, go and check them out. They've got some great pieces of kit over there. In my next travel over to WA, I will 100% be heading into Racecraft, asking for a coffee with the owner and just having a chat with them, because I think that'd be one hell of an afternoon conversation to be had. But if you do live locally in WA, they're not too far away from the Perth city centre. Go and check them out. They are absolutely fantastic. Ray chat in the chat saying, and I thought the accent was almost gone. It's not, Ray. It's not. You got some words that sound somewhat Australian, but your majority of your accent is still there. It's like when my dad goes to visit his parents at home. The accent comes straight back. There's no hiding from it. I'm sorry, but yeah, there's so much on offer now. We were talking off screen, Scotty, about some of these fuel strategies, how they're possibly going to pay out. I put forward to you, you put forward to me some of the drivers who made up some big positions: Sheriff, Smith, Quain, Latham, Bush, Weston, McKenzie, DeGoey. The one driver pointed out to you, though, Wayne Shepherd. He's up 7 spots in the P22, and he took one of the longest pit stops over that last stop. If he can keep it clean and he can get a good green pit stop in towards the end of this race, he could even see himself inside the top 10 if he's not careful, because he's going to have a super quick stop now, and he's going to make up some free positions in those pits. And if people or other drivers make some mistakes along the way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That could be a strategy. We'll have to watch that one of the Carl 313 and see how he fares with that, especially if he can stay with those drivers or even make a little bit more of a positions as he's been doing throughout the race so far. He's been driving absolutely superbly. Adrian Zill, he dropped 5 positions there back into P20. So I think he might have taken a long fuel stop as well there, Hamish.
He has. So I think he'll probably get those 5 back on his next stop. He's probably around about, on corrected order, probably around about on the bubble of the top 10 as well. So we may actually see him and Sheppo and Stacey Boyd move up together as the stints start to come together towards the end of this race.
Yeah, that will be interesting. But yeah, some big movers there. Michael Quain, like you talked about, Ray Smith, Daniel Sheriffs, some really big movers. They've gone for that other alternative strategy. They've gone for a little bit of track position. I don't mind that, Hamish. I actually don't mind that. It puts them up around that top 10 area. So yeah, could be a good call from them, but they're going to have to pay the price later. As we see the safety car pull away, we're not far off going green. We've just got to wait for Spriggsy to get the call, and then he can light it up and start sending it down, get this race back underway.
I wonder when he's going to go, whether it's going to be straight off the exit of the corner or if he's going to hold him down to the line. It's straight off the corner. It's probably one of the better spots you can do it around here. You just plant it as soon as you hit the apex and you run away. Very easy to catch some drivers in behind you, napping a little bit, but race is back underway. Lap 23 of 52, right just on the halfway mark of this race. As they come up down towards turn 2 once again now, Burridge and Mackay are battling it out hard in behind. If they start battling it out, Spriggsy could run away with this thing once again. Lorne Mackay, though, is in a battle with Chad Viger right now. He's just lost the position. Lanyon's involved too. Ullman's there with him, as well as Sheriffs, Smith and Clifton making up the top 10 at the moment. Clifton's under pressure right now from Michael Quain, who has made up some good gains in this race, as we mentioned. Brenton O'Brien, he's having a consistent run. He's up 5 into P12. Had one of the longest stops. He had about a 35-second stop as Spriggsy's run it round at turn 7, and he's pulled out right in the line of Ray Smith. I think that could very well be a penalty coming from the previous leader of this race, Scotty, because that rejoin there was questionable.
Yeah, it's a tough one. There wasn't much contact made, but there was contact. They are pretty tough on those rejoins, and I tell you, talking of rejoins, Hamish, hopefully nothing breaks free here. Unfortunate to see Spriggsy back, but I had a unsafe rejoin against me in a Pro Series. I didn't even touch anyone, didn't even make contact, and I got 10 license points for that, by the way. Anyway, as we see another car, that's Michael Quain. He's gone off the road there. He's going to get back on it, get back in, but he's dropped a bunch of positions. He's dropped a good 10 positions there, Hamish, back into P20 right behind Damon Fisher.
Yeah, they get out of their rhythm. They get into a restart mode as Zeal has a massive slowdown off the Variante Alta. He's now had to drop back behind Wayne Shepherd. Sipple has now dropped a spot to both Fox and Spriggs as he tries to make his way back up through the field. Oh, man, that could be a race-losing moment there for Jason Spriggs, because if he cops this penalty, there's no way he can come back from that, I think, Scotty. I mean, he's going to have to do 2 more traverses through the lane to get home. He's got to do his compulsory pit stop, and he'd have to do a drive-through if he does get it from race control for the rejoin. Possibly even a no-holding brakes penalty as well. We'll see what they say about it. But right now, the favourites for this one, Burridge and Mackay, they're at the front of the field, but you've got to look back to the likes of Viger and Lanyon, who took those longer stops under the safety car. They could be the ones fighting it out for this win at the end of this race.
Yeah, if Viger can stay with Mackay here, get up right behind him, get in his wing. We know Lord Mackay, he's driving beautifully. But, you know, to get back to this M1 racing, they drove beautifully last season, Hamish. You know, Kennedy and I'm trying to... and Darren as well. They drove absolutely beautifully in that M1 racing, and Burridge is driving exactly the same way this season in Split 2. So he's really come alive. He's really showing Split 2 what he's about, how he's going about it, and I'm really liking the way he's racing at the moment. Yeah, he's got one of the faster drivers right behind him at the moment, but he's handling it. He's been up there all night so far.
I'll have to check the stats thing I mentioned previously before, if there's ever been 2 seasons in a row where a driver from the same team has won the Split 2 championship. I don't know if it's ever happened. I don't think it's happened in the past year. I can say that with full confidence, because season 14 was Troy Sybil from Quantum Pecky's Performance Racing. Season 15 was Todd Duggan from Nova Simsports. Season 16 was Rick Sibra from Frog Elite Juice Racing. Season 17 was Jason Spriggs, formerly of Old Mate and Sons, now Vermilion Motorsports. Season 18 was Matt Scholes from Phoenix Racing. And then last season, season 19, was Stephen Kennedy from M1 Racing. So we've gone that long without a double up of a team to win the Split 2 championship. I'd have to go back and check season 13, 12, and 11. But that might be one of those things that has actually occurred throughout the proceedings of the history of vets. Is when have they actually, have they ever actually done it?
I wouldn't think that I've ever seen from the same team, 2 different drivers, so team championship double up in a season throughout vets. I think you'd have to look through all the splits, and we may not even find that, Hamish. So the only
one I can think of, Scotty, would be you winning season 15 and 16 as Split 1.
Yeah, but that's the same driver. So what I'm saying is
2 different drivers from the same team.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever happened.
We'd have to check. Roy Clark saying Jamie McKnight. Well, he would have been at Synergy. Would he have been at a different team before he was at Synergy? Because he hasn't won it since he went to Fishy.
No,
same driver. There's been double ups the same driver. What we're saying is 2 different champions, 2 seasons in a row, but from the same team. So if it would have happened this season, Chris Burridge would have to win the championship, because it would mean that 2 different M1 drivers have won the Split 2 championship 2 seasons in a row. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're talking about.
Oh, Roy's saying Jamie McKnight and Stephen Varga both raced for the same team. I think that's what Roy's saying. So that would have been probably the only one that's ever been done.
Yeah, they did too. That was SSR, because I believe he was SSR for a while. He was M1 or M1 Esports, I believe, there for quite some time as well, Bugs. But yeah, interesting. There you go. Maybe the history has been filled, but perhaps not in Split 2.
Oh, well, we'll have to... I definitely want to see what the history's like in Split 2. And who has, how many different teams have in fact actually won it. But at the moment, Burridge and Mackay are battling this thing out hard. Viger is also battling it out with Lorne Mackay. Jamie went from United to Synergy and now Fishy. Okay, yeah, so he was at United, then he was at Synergy, but it's whether we had 2 different champions 2 seasons in a row from the same team. So, for example, when you won in season 15 and 16, Scott, when you were at Evolution Racing Team, if Brett O'Brien had won in season 16, that would count, because 2 Evolution Racing Team drivers had won 2 seasons in a row, but they're different champions.
Yeah, interesting talking of Jamie McKnight. Before he formed United Racing, that team, that was Jamie's team, he was an Evolution Racing Team driver prior to that, for many years actually. And yeah, from there, SSR, and then on to Fishing Motorsports now.
Well, at the moment, we are at the halfway point of this race. As we currently stand, it is Chris Burridge, Scott Mackay, Chad Viger. That's the top three. Lorne Mackay, Steve Lanyon make up the top five. Luke Ullman, John Gallen, Daniel Sheriffs, Mick Clifton, Brenton O'Brien make up the top 10. Then it's Robert Crowe, Jason Spriggs, Ed Fox, Troy Sybil, Simon Farrington making up the top 15. Ray Smith, Peter Latham, Damon Fisher, Michael Quain, Stacey Boyd make up the top 20. Wayne Shepherd, Adrian Zeal, Brett Taylor, Michael Yo, Jeremy Bush make up the top 25. We then have Scott Weston, Roy Clark, Matt Stoyles, Reece DeGoey, and Scott McKenzie making up the top 30. Dean Logsdale, Brendan Zatira, Peter Baxter, Matthew Scholes, Todd Duggan making up the top 35. It is then Sean Cullen to Peter Vermeer, to Jamie Peters, to Will Munro, to Andrew Hoffman making up the top 40 cars on this field. I hope that has filled your veins with love there, John Gallen, because that is the only full run through of the field I'm doing until round 10.
He would be loving that and rolling in his red wine at the moment as you speak there, mate. Absolutely fantastic effort to get through them again there, Hamish. Yeah, this is interesting. Chad's fallen away from Burridge and Mackay there. Maybe that extra fuel load is compromised a little bit. But, yeah, the way Burridge and Mackay are driving at the moment, they're setting some really good times. They're in the 43s. The rest of the drivers are in the 44s, Hamish, which is really, really surprising. Almost a second difference last time around between Mackay and Viger.
I just wanted to go back to this battle because I saw all of them were underneath 1/10 of a second out of Variante Alta, and it almost blew up into the Ravazzas there. Scotty, Brendan O'Brien got the move done on Mick Clifton. Spriggs has gotten it done on Crowe, but that was super, super close. As Crowe's come in lap 28, so maybe he's trying to undercut this battle now. Could be smart strategy play by him if these guys are going to be battling like this.
He can make it to the end there. Sorry, I missed that. But as we see, Spriggs send it down the inside there of Clifton. He got that pass done. Clifton didn't want anything of that, and it looks like Jason has got Brenton in his sights. But, you know, kudos to Brenton here. He's got a lot of clean air in front of him. He's in P9. He would have taken a full load of fuel, I'm sure of it, or very close to it. So he won't, I'd imagine he won't fight with Spriggsy too much. He'll let Spriggsy drag him along and use him as a strategy. Save that little bit of fuel that we talked about that you can do by doing that, Hamish. So very interesting. This has got more to play out, this little battle group here.
Yeah, I definitely think it does. We've got Chris Burridge in the chat saying contact between me and Jason Spriggs on the restart. My fault as I wasn't up far enough on his car for an overtake. We touched and Jason spun. No good. I sent a message to apologise. Hey, at least you took responsibility for that one there, Chris. And that's all we ever ask of anyone who has an incident in this split. Scotty, is that you at least take ownership. If it's your fault, take some ownership about it, put out an apology, try and be better next time out on track. That's all we can ask.
Yeah, absolutely. I know from my own perspective, when you get a message off someone saying, hey, I'm really sorry that happened, and, you know, they own it, you sit there and it doesn't hurt. Like, you don't have any salt over it. You're just like, yeah, that's racing. It happens. And, you know, I even had a message not too long ago where there was no contact, but a driver messed up in front of me. And they said, oh, look, I'm really sorry. I nearly took you out. And we weren't even really racing at that stage. They just made a mistake. But, you know, to send that message to someone and reach out to them, you know, really nice gesture and shows the sportsmanship that the Vets League and the camaraderie that it's built on. So, yeah, fantastic. I think we're going to see Spriggsy have a very, very big look at Brenton here.
Unfortunately for Chris Burridge, he has been given a drive-through penalty for the contact with Jason Spriggs at turn 7 off the restart. He is now all the way back in P20. This could take him out of contention for this race, Scotty, unless he can get a move on. But that battle pack ahead of him, that is as tall as Mount Everest right now. Of him trying to climb up it, I don't see Chris coming back from this at this point unless there is just an absolute car crash up ahead of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a ferocious battle pack that he's in. Really unfortunate for Burridge, you know, to have that contact. It wasn't much in it at all. But, yeah, he's got a long train of cars in front of him, and they're all hungry to maintain position. You know, you've got Wayne Shepherd who's driving beautifully in front. Boyd, we know Boyd's been in the podium contentions. You know, so he's got a lot of work to do there. Fisher, Quain, Latham, a lot of good drivers. as you're on board now looking at Roy Clark. We haven't spoken about him much tonight, Hamish.
We haven't. I thought I'd give him some love since Shervo Jones just gave a shout out to Roy in the chat. And Roy has been joining us all night here, so I thought let's give him a little bit of TV time. He's battling it out with Jeremy Bush here for P24 on the road. He's actually only one spot down from where he started. So this is right about where he started on the race, about where his pace sits. He's had a long stop, though, under the safety car, so he could get some free positions under the next pit stop.
Yeah, and Roy's one of those drivers. He's been driving well at some tracks, others maybe not so much. But he's looking like he's keeping it pretty consistent. As you said, his strategy's on. He's in a big tight group here. He's got Bush in front of him, Yale, Taylor, Zill. They're all hungry to maintain positions at the moment. So he's got a bit of work to do, I think, Hamish. But still, solid drive by Roy tonight.
Wayne Shepherd into the pit lane now, lap 30. So he's also gone for a bit of an undercut over that battle pack that we saw him a part of. It goes all the way from Troy Sipple, Mick Clifton, all the way back to, I want to say, Todd Duggan. This is the end of that train. That is how long it is. It is 21 positions long. Now, yes, there are two gaps in this train of a second or more. The rest of them are less than a second. On average, they're under half a second. That is how close this battle is.
Perhaps that's why we've seen some drivers come in just to get out of it, Hamish.
Yeah.
They've come in for that early stop. It's a risky move. It's a long 22, 28, 25 laps on tyres. A long way to go. But maybe that will work out for them if they get that clean air. But yeah, this is a fantastic battle pack. I think this might even tighten up into a couple of groups as this race progresses if we remain green.
Well, Wayne Shepherd, his last pit stop, he mentioned he'd be taking a slightly shorter stop with 12.21 seconds on his last stop. It was a 42.63 lane travel time. He's now lost out. Who was he behind? It was around about Adrian Zeal. He's lost out only 35 seconds to Adrian over that pit stop. So he could still gain some positions here over the rest of this field. And if these guys are battling it out the list throughout this field, as Spriggsy also comes in the pit lane, is it a pit stop or is it a drive-through? We'll have to wait and see, but Shepherd could be on for some big gains if he can keep it clean now at the back of the field. As I've just noticed, 4 of my drivers are all together at the back end of the field in Crowe, Shepherd, Peters and Munro, so they're all having a good old time at the back.
Perhaps this is this strategy you wrote down, Hamish, if there's something you'd like to share with that one, because it does seem like there's a little trait going on with those Sim Riggs Infinity Motorsports cars, and that was a drive-through for Briggsy. Really has put him out now. He's come back out in P33. Real shame for Jason. And he was super fast.
He needs a pit stop as well. So he's actually going to end up likely behind, I want to say, Jamie Peters, maybe Will Munro. I mean, he's 40 odd seconds ahead of them. And he's probably going to have about a 20-second stop. He may drop all the way back to P37, even P36 on the road.
Yeah, he may. We do know he's got the pace, though. He might have a little bit of red mist about him. I think he's just going to have eyes forward. So I'd expect him to close in very quickly on Scotty Weston. Another driver we haven't spoken too much about. Looks like he's got an alternate livery on one side.
No, that's Hoffy. It's Hoffy who's out of sync.
Hoffy who's out of sync, rightio. Yeah, and Scotty Weston just going about his business, Hamish. The quiet achiever at times. So he's got Cullen in front of him. Both on their day can put out some really good times. So they're having a nice little battle here with Jason closing up very quickly behind him.
Let's move on up back towards some of these other battles happening in the field. Michael Quain's trying to chase down Ray Smith at the moment. He's got Peter Latham in behind him as they are amongst this 20-odd car train. There has been a crash, though, in the background, and it's happened with Jason Spriggs and Andrew Hoffman at the bottom of the hill. I'm not quite sure what's happened between them, whether it was lapped car doing things, but he did let Spriggsy past him, so maybe a bit of a moz happening there for Hoffy, but unfortunately that's gonna force the pit stop on Spriggs, and he may end up at the back of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Might as well get that stop done. Looks like Hoffy said, "Yep, I'm in. I'll get that stop done too." But at the moment, Viger, he's a long way behind Mackay. Guys clicked out to 6 seconds. but there's probably 6 seconds more of fuel on Viger's car at the moment. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting, Hamish.
As we're back here with Chad Viger, we were on Scott Mackay for a moment. He is 6.3 seconds up the road from Chad Viger at the moment. So he may need a bit of a safety car to catch up to him. But we'll see what he can do in the rest of this race. Steve Lanyon, Luke Oldman, these guys still battling as well. Further back, Ed Fox, Mick Clifton, they've got a tight... Oh, sorry, Ed Fox, Bretton O'Brien got a tight little battle. Not too far behind. Mick Clifton still leads that 20-odd car train around up towards the Ravazzas at the moment. So we're got about 19 laps to go, Scotty. Where do you think this race is kind of sitting right now in terms of where we might see this play out, who we may see challenging for this win? Actually, now that I think about it, Scott Mackay, he took a 27-second stop last time. Lanyon had the 41-second stop. He may actually pip him in the pits.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure of Viger's time, Chad's. I'm pretty sure he took a longer stop as well. So this has got a lot to play out. At the moment, if they were to do those stops, if there was a safety car at the moment, Lanyon potentially would come out as leader.
That's exactly right. And I actually think Mackay, although he's got a nice gap at the moment, he may even drop back below Chad Viger. Maybe even John Gallen. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, he's got a 13-second gap to Gallen, so he might be all right. But
he's the fastest car on track at the moment.
He is. He's done a 42.68. He did a 43.05 last lap. So he is absolutely beltering it out there. He's already up to 7 seconds ahead of Chad Viger. He's actually gained a second over that last lap. This was at the point where we saw him before. This is so interesting how this could play out now. I can't even fathom how this strategy is now going to play out, how all the puzzle pieces are going to come together, who's going to end up where, and who's going to be on the top step at the end of this thing. We could be on for one hell of an end to this race and possibly one of the closest finishes we've had all season. We had a super close finish last time at Monza, and we've had a couple of close finishes this season. This could quite possibly be the closest we've had it just based on the strategy, and that's what I love to see. Some good strategy at play. You can't get many overtakes done at this track, but you can make up spots with the strategy, and sometimes that can cost you, but it could also pay out in a big win as well.
Yeah, I'd say that Mackay's realised that he's in trouble on this fuel strategy because he is absolutely sending it last lap around a 42.8 versus Chad Viger, a 43.8. So he's a second a lap quicker at the moment. Not so much quicker than Lorne Mackay, who got a 43.3. So he's actually got the pace down at the moment. But how well, Hamish, is Luke Orman driving from Team AJR to stay here with the likes of Lanyon, Mackay, Viger, and Mackay? Like, he's right in the hunt. He's a top 5 at the moment. Yes, he's down 2 positions off his qualifying, but he's driving absolutely sensationally.
He could be on for quite an impressive podium here tonight at this point. Could Mr. Ullman. He's done well. He's driven consistently. He's only dropped the 2 spots. You know, with the shorter pit stops out there, he may not have even dropped those 2 spots. He could have been in P3 at this point. It'll be so interesting to see how this plays out for him. He's doing incredibly well at the moment. But we left it a bit late last time to talk about some driver of the day options. We've got 17 odd laps to go. Who's your front runner at the moment for us to put forward for a driver of the day option, do you reckon?
Well, for me, it's John Gallen. I know that he's taken on, from those pit stops, he's taken on a full load of fuel, Hamish. He's up into P6, currently on track, circulating by himself. So he's made 10 positions. So he didn't have a great qualifying. He's made those 10 positions on track, plus some, because he took so much fuel. So this has been a big drive of him. Yes, he's not too far behind Allman. I think he's, looking at around about 3.8 seconds off that. So as things play out, maybe this second cycle of pit stops may see him a little bit closer.
Could very well be. I think right now, my front runner, I'm going to say, is going to be Troy Sipple. I think Troy could be on for quite a positive finish here tonight. He could be on for a top 5. He's been amongst the battles all race. He's trying to get by Mick Clifton. If he can get this done and catch up to Brendan O'Brien, he's my front runner at the moment to put that forward. We will save the 4 nominations for the last couple of laps, though, so you guys can think about it as well. Chuck your names out in the chat. Who you think we could put forward for a name as well. We don't mind hearing some recommendations out in the chat. Gives us an idea of what 4 names we're going to put forward. We reckon, though, at the moment, the front runners are John Gallen and Troy Sippel, but let us know what you think. The nominations will go up probably about with 4 or 5 laps to go, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, with Troy Sippel there from the Quantum Pecky's Racing. He's been probably the most nominated for the Chubby Buns Driver of the Day. But like I said earlier, he just hasn't quite cracked it. Maybe tonight is his night, Hamish. We'll have to wait and see. He's driving very, very well. Mick Clifton, we know, he's no slouch. He's extremely fast, and he's just sitting in there very nicely at the moment.
Yeah, I think if Sips can get this top 5, he's almost a lock for me to go into that 4. That's really going to be dependent, though, if he does get into that top 5. Will Wilson saying Baldock is the best. I've been waiting for a year and a half for Dave Baldock to come into Split 2, because I reckon that'll be an absolute ball of fun to see how he does. To have him in the chat every week would be awesome. Wilson, he nominates, but we'll give an honorary mention to Dave Baldock. He is the Chubby Buns Burgers Driver of the Day in all of our hearts. I think we can all agree. Maybe not John Van Rees, but in all of our hearts, we can all agree that Dave Baldock is the crowd favourite for a Chubby Buns Burger of the Day, Chubby Buns Burger Driver of the Day award. We can see Michael Quain, Todd Duggan, Brendan Zatira. Those guys are now coming into pit lane, Scotty, so we'll see how the strategy is now going to play out for them. Remembering that Duggan took a 35-second stop on the last stop. Zatira took a 28.2, so I reckon Duggan may gain some good positions on him in this next pit stop. We'll see how it plays out, though. Michael Yeo's now dropped a spot to Matt Stores, and that's why he's ended up off the track. Needs to be careful to rejoin. He was quite lucky there that he wasn't online. He could have very easily backed it in front of another car. That was a nice, careful, calculated rejoin. The other drivers played ball and didn't hit him, so that's good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. They got it through there. They've seen it well ahead and navigated that nicely. Thinking of the Dave Baldock, gee whiz, you wouldn't want to be in that household at the moment the way that Port Adelaide are playing. And there's 2 people that I wouldn't want to be around if Port Adelaide ever won. And that would be Brendan O'Brien and Dave Baldock.
I don't know if you can claim that right now, Scotty, because they're cooking up swans for dinner right now. I've checked the scores. It is ridiculous. I mean, the Swans are bleeding. I love it as a Lions fan because it gives us hope for a minor premiership, but Port Adelaide are playing out of their skin and they're doing exactly what the Lions needed them to do and just absolutely destroying the Swans' goal advantage that they have and their points advantage that they have over P2 and the Lions right now. But Gallen, he's had a clean, consistent race. We'll wait to see what he does in his pit stop as well. The field has started to spread a little bit, but we expect that with such a long race and with a track like this that we're in the middle ground. We're in the kind of grey area of this race. We're right in the midst of the second pit stop. Everyone's only really going to come together once everyone has done their second pit stop, and we have a real roadmap towards the end of this race and how everyone is going to line up into the final stint of this one and the final run home as well, Scotty, because we can't really determine it right now. Not everyone's pit, not everyone's doing the same lap time. Some people are conserving fuel, some people are conserving tyres. It'll be interesting how this one's going to play out for them because, I mean, Mackay, he's got one hell of a lead, 8.4 seconds, incredible over Chad Viger. But is it going to be enough for him to retain the lead over the likes of Steve Lanyon, John Gallen, even Chad Viger, who did a 9-second faster pit stop than what Scotty Mackay did?
Yeah, it will be interesting. We've seen quite a few drivers just come into the pit then, Hamish, with Taylor, Lathan, Stoyles. They've all come in, got their second pit stop done, or their final pit stop. But yeah, this, like you said, it does spread out a little bit during this phase. We've got that last pit stop to go. I think we might see a little compression of the field there. And what's going to come into it is also tyres. Some drivers might have it that have taken that longer fuel. We'll have fresher tyres in there as we see Ray Smith having a little exit, had a rejoin. He's back on track now. Got that Simrig's car underway, but he may even lose another position there. But yeah, a lot of more drivers coming in. Scott Mackay, he's coming in for his pit stop. This is crucial. So he's probably got as long as he could. Perhaps now is the time, if Viger and all them Lanyon seen him do that, perhaps now the time to come in and counter that pit stop by Mackay.
Well, Sippel, Farrington and Zeal have all come in as well. We'll keep an eye on how these pit stops do for them at the moment. And how they come out of pit lane. Viger has now taken the lead, so he will get an extra point for leading a lap. Scott Mackay, has he led the most laps at this point? Oh, No, I think Jason Spriggs still led more. He led, 22 laps or even more until he had his spin?
Yeah, he led the first 17, 18 laps.
Yeah,
First
I would say he probably led about 20-odd laps to this point. So I think Mackay needs to probably lead a couple more to get that extra point for leading most laps at the moment. But Viger gets his extra point for leading a lap. Michael Yeo has had another incident in the background. Where is he on track? Oh, it's at the Variante Alta where Viger is coming up to. So he needs to try and get out of the way as quickly as possible. Oh, Viger was incredibly lucky there not to catch Mike. He was very lucky actually not to be probably 5 seconds up the road closer to Michael Yeo, because he could have actually collected him there through the Variante Alta.
Absolutely, and it's probably crucial now. Viger needs to pit. He's right behind him. He's going to get held up a little bit here. So can he get into the pit lane and get this stop done? No, he's going another lap, Hamish, which is really surprising. Sometimes Lorne said, no, I'm throwing it in. I'm going to counter Mackay's one. And we see Allman come in, Lanyon come in. So Chad's decided to go longer than all those top 5 drivers at this stage.
So is John Gallen. Where is Scott Mackay? He is coming through the Variante Alta. And now the question is, does he come out and stay out ahead of Steve Lanyon, Lorne Mackay, and Luke Ullman? They're all on the jacks now. You can see their pit stop times getting counted at the bottom of the screen. Oh, I'm shaking, Scotty. This is going to be super, super close for Scott Mackay. Steve Lanyon's coming out of pit lane. Lanyon's coming out. So is Lorne Mackay. So is Luke Ullman. Mackay's not going to get him. He's going to drop 3 spots off the back of this pit stop possibly. There's Luke Ullman. He has dropped to provisional P4 on the road in behind Luke Ullman, Lorne Mackay, and Steve Lanyon. So, unfortunately for him, he came in the lap before the safety car was called. And that's the problem with trying to go for an undercut so early in the race, is sometimes you cut yourself by the feet. And he had to take a 27-second pit stop. He had to do another one later in the race. These guys, they were in there for 9 seconds for Lanyon, 14 seconds for Baxter. In fact, Baxter's actually passed him as well, but he might need another stop. 14 seconds for Mackay, 13 seconds for Ullman. He's had to do a 27-second stop. He has dropped at least 20 seconds on those guys, and he didn't even have that as a lead. So now the question is, does he lose out to Viger? He definitely loses out to Gallen. Does he lose out to the likes of O'Brien or even Ed Fox as well?
This is a beautiful strategy by Lanyon. He was fuel saving. We've seen it when we were on board with him, Hamish, in the first stint. He could have easily taken a position to go up into P2 and try and chase down Spriggs, but he didn't. He saved fuel. So he saved fuel there. He probably might have saved 3-4 litres, which probably added to another couple of seconds. Was he saving fuel through the second stint? And now it's enough to get him home. And he's had a big jump over Mackay. It was way in front. So that's a huge deficit for Mackay to make up. But we know he's fast. He's super fast here. I think he'll still push on, and we potentially could see him still get up there a little bit more further than where he is at the moment. That's for sure.
The problem is, though, he's got to try and get past Luke Ullman and Lorne Mackay, but he has just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:42.45. So the fresh rubber, the half tank of fuel. Oh, can he get this done? It's going to be super, super close. He's going to have to get through Ullman, Lorne Mackay, Steve Lanyon, possibly Chad Viger, definitely John Gallen, and possibly O'Brien and Fox as well. So this could be one hell of a tough test for Scott Mackay. It's exam season, folks, and he's currently having to do a pre-exam if he hopes to win this championship.
Couple of notes with these pit stops done there, Hamish. Wayne Shepherd up 18 positions to P11. Jamie Peters done that early undercut, very early undercut, having lap 5, up 16 positions into P14. So with Simrig's Infinity Motorsport, we were watching them on their pit stop strategy. Looks like it's paying out for them right now.
Viger's into pit lane, and what did I say? I told you that Sheppo was going to gain some good spots, having that longer stop earlier in the race has paid off for him. The caveat to Peters is he came in on lap 22 before the critical lap. I don't think he can make it home. I don't think he's been able to do enough fuel saving. Gallen has stayed out for another lap. Fox is in. O'Brien has also stayed out. Where is Lanyon? Into the Ravatsas as he comes round. The question is, he should pass Chad Viger, but will Scott Mackay pass Chad Viger? Or will he drop below him in the standings? Viger has just dropped. He's out of pit lane. Scott Mackay's coming round. He's lost out to him. Lanyon's gotten by. There is Chad. Is he going to come out ahead of Lorne Mackay? He's not. Is he going to come out ahead of Luke Ullman? He's not, but he is ahead of Scott Mackay. So now, on corrected order, because if Chad's done it, it means John's going to do it. Scott Mackay is provisional P6 on the road. He may even lose out to Brenton O'Brien. I'm not 100% sure. He hasn't lost out to Ed Fox. But this has been a big blunder, or a big bit of unluckiness for Scott Mackay here.
Yeah, he's all over Viger. We're waiting for Viger's tyres to come up, but he has got 2-3 laps of newer tyres. He's just got to get them up to pressure, get that rotation, get that feeling back, and he's going to be very difficult to pass. Is Chad, because we haven't got long to go. We've got 13 laps after this one, Hamish, to go. So he's got a lot of. Yeah, this is going to be very difficult for Mackay to make it past Viger at the moment. Allman just ahead, driving beautifully. More Mackay, as you said, and Lanyon. Lanyon looks like he's checked out. He's absolutely played this a master stroke. What I will be watching for is where John Gallant and Brenton O'Brien fit into this order, and if they're in the top 10.
Will Munro is making claims that I ruined his fuel strategy in the chat. That was your birthday present, William. I decided to bring you back as, throw you in at the deep end as best I could. Will Wilson also said, replace my vanilla ice cream with mashed potatoes. That'll let him. I love mashed potatoes. That'd be a win and a half for me. I would not mind at all. And Simon Hayes is saying that William should replace chocolate topping on the ice cream with something that my dog could make for me. So that's so nice of all of you in the chat to talk about that. But no, it was a nice little throw William in at the deep end, see how he does. No, it was a complete mistake on my part. I underfield him by a lot, so that was my fault.
Oh, well, that would be an interesting household and conversation that night, mate. But
yeah, he was not very happy with me. I won him over by giving him a glass of rum. He then calmed down after that, but yeah, he was not happy. After I told him that, he was not happy at all, so I just decided to serve a mutant deafen him because I was not really willing to listen to it at that point because I knew that it was my mistake and I didn't really need to be reminded of it.
Absolutely. Some other good games here. Stacey Boyd, he's up 13 positions into P10, so that's a very good gain by the international driver. He's putting a lot of pressure on the moment to Shepard, who's up 20 positions into P9. So we might have to revisit these Driver of the Day nominations the way it's going, mate.
We may have to. I don't want to show any favouritism, but Shepard has done this absolutely masterfully, and if he can get this job done, yeah, he could be a front runner once again. We nominated him last week. Oh no, not last week. We nominated him a couple of weeks ago. He just missed out on it, but I mean, I'm still liking Troy Sipple. He's looking pretty good at the moment. I like your pick for John Gallen. Brent O'Brien could even be an option too. So I think a couple of those guys in the top 10 could be an option. Nick Clifton could be a bit of a smoky. He's had a good, clean, consistent race, defending hard, having some good racing under his belt this week, and he's been a real sleeper pick for me as well over the last couple of weeks. So it's going to be tough for us to put some options out there for the chat. I think we may have to revisit this in a couple laps time and really lock these names in, I think, because this is going to be very difficult. But Gallen is going ultra long on this stop. It's going to be a real splash and dash home to get that second compulsory done. Same can be said for Brenton O'Brien as well.
Yeah, they are. They're absolutely wringing the neck out of this. The car does sort of come back to you when you get a little bit of lighter fuel in it, Hamish. So, yeah, not a bad strategy to run as long as you can. Yes, the tyres are suffering, but where they feed back out, Gallen and O'Brien are championship contenders. So where they feed back out is going to be absolute crucial to their championship. So this is a real sort of strategy call on their behalf. We've seen some great strategies by Lanyon, Sheppo. That's been masterful. Boyd as well, he's played into it as well. The other driver that I really like that's driving really well at the moment, Peter Baxter, he's up 14. Jeremy Bush, we don't really see him much. He's up 17 position from Locked On Lads Racing, so he's having a cracking night out there and really keeping himself in the hunt there. got a good driver in front of him in Damon Fisher.
John Gallen is into the pit lane. So he has now come in for his stop. Brenton O'Brien has stayed out. He's going to claim that extra point for leading a lap in this race. And unfortunately for Scott Mackay, I don't think it's possible for him now to actually get the extra point for leading most laps. Because he's got to try and pass at least 5 cars to get back in the lead. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that in time to gain the extra, I want to say 10 or so laps that he has to get to pip Jason Spriggs to that point.
Has Gallen come out? He's
coming out now. So Scott Mackay has actually gotten past him. I spoke way too soon. But Gallen, interestingly enough, has had a longer stop than Steve Lanyon did. And to that point, he took a longer stop on the first stop as well. He should have been slightly shorter than Steve Lanyon this time by. That might have hurt him a little bit.
Steve Lanyon has absolutely fuel saved this to a master's degree in those first stints. So that's where he's made these massive gains. Put him out in front. He's under no pressure at the moment, Lanyon. This is all his to win. He's got a massive gain over Lorne Mackay, who, you know, and Luke Allman as well. So at the moment, your 3 on track is Lanyon, Mackay and Allman. Yes, Brenton O'Brien, he's in P1 picking up that extra point. Hasn't pitted. As we see, Roy Clark just take a little bit extra wide there, have a little look out there, have a bit of a sight tour, which has let Robert Crow through. I haven't talked about him too much tonight either, Hamish, who is back equal to his starting position after having a very early pit stop. Not sure whether he pitted with damage or not earlier on, but yeah, good to see him make his ground back up to P12.
Yeah, he, you know, Robbie over the last couple of weeks kind of proved he loves an undercut. He loves coming in early, get out of the battle, get some clean track around you and just push on. And it has paid off for him the last couple of weeks. We'll see if the luck continues for him in towards the end of this race. He's got Roy Clark and Ed Fox around him at the moment. He's got Mick Clifton not too far up the road, so these guys are in a nice battle. We'll check back in with them a little bit later. Jason Spriggs is checking with him. He's just passed Will Munro on circuit. To Will's credit, after having quite an unlucky race so far, he's currently sitting on 16 incident points and missing the front end of that car. He's just trying to get it home at the moment. But he is up 5 spots from where he started, so he has actually had quite a clean run so far in this race. He's just trying to get it to check the flag, but Spriggsy, what could have been for him if he did not get that spin round at turn 7 on the restart and then cop the penalty for not holding his brakes and having a poor rejoin. Yeah,
absolutely. Real shame for Jason because he most certainly would have pressured for the win here. What's that? Is that a slowdown there by Mackay as we see Allman going through?
I saw on the incident report thing on the side of the SDK, both of them had an off track, and I just want to see what happened. So I reckon they've actually both ran it wide off of turn 6, and then both have actually had to do the slowdown into that corner. And then Allman has taken the position back. Maybe Mackay was actually redressing the position. Actually, maybe he knocked Luke off track.
Yeah, it did look like a redress to me and looked like maybe it was, as you said, an off-track there. So perhaps a little bit of contact as pushing through, but if he did redress, well done.
Well, Stacey Boyd has now gotten past Wayne Shepherd into P9 on the road. Both these guys are up a multitude of positions. Brenton O'Brien has finally come into pit lane. I think Steve Lanyon will now take the lead of this race once he gets past him. In the pits, Mick Clifton is still ahead of Robert Crow at the moment here. These guys are continuing their battle on track. Lorne Mackay, though, has had a big off-track down at the Ravatsas. That's going to take him out of contention. And he may not even come out ahead of Brenton O'Brien, as Sips has now even pipped it past him as well for P7 on the road. O'Brien's now going to come out of pit, so he's in fact even going to jump Troy Sipple and Lorne Mackay, as Lorne's actually had to bring the car back into the pit lane. That might be race done and dusted for him in the hopes that a top 10 just absolutely gone in a second.
I'm surprised why he has to bring that into pit lane, but we did talk about this in the pre-race build-up, Hamish, about the concentration and the effort it takes to get around here. 52 laps at Imola is a hell of a long way, and it's starting to show on a few of these drivers. Some mistakes are creeping in. A few drivers are taking the scenic route, a couple little bumps here and there, and it's really spread the field and changed the finishing positions immensely. So this is very interesting as we see Brenton O'Brien. He's done his final pit stop. He's up to P7. He actually came out just behind Troy Sipple, so in front of Stacey Boyd. So that's a good move by him to stay out. So he's gone for the overcut. We've seen undercuts, we've seen overcuts, and we've seen fuel saving tonight. This has been a great show by the split 2 guys with their strategies.
Mate, it has gone absolutely perfectly. William, you can't say words like that in the chat. Come on. I know it's a play on words, but we can't put that in YouTube chat. You're going to get us. You're going to get the... Please don't use that word in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. That will get us a strike, and we don't want to have that happen. Well, Luke Ullman, Scott Mackay, these guys still battling. Mackay is now on the podium after O'Brien has come into pit lane, Scotty, so he is still on the up and up. There's been an incident in the background involving Roy Clark and Robert Crow at the Variante Alta. Crowe looks to be trying to redress the position, but Clark's just dropping spots right now. I think if you're Crowe, I mean, if this moment here, right, if Crowe was at fault for that, and I'm going to say this to every single driver out there, your best option, just keep driving. Because you are
when
putting
you drop that much position,
the redress is never going to be an acceptable self-inflicted penalty. You have to just keep going because you're likely going to get a drive through as he's trying to rejoin track. Oh no! Oh my God! That could have absolutely blown up. As it's still good, as straight across the track comes Peter Vermeer ahead of Sean Cullen and is absolutely blowing up at the back end of the field. But yeah, to everyone out there, if you end up in the same position that Robert Crowe just was, where you may have turned another car and you think it is your fault, he's bringing the car into pit lane to fix it up. But if you're ever in that position, just keep driving. Because if you pull up and you try and redress, like Roy was in a position, he couldn't move the car, he's dropping spots. A redress
still going to come down hard on you.
Exactly. The redress is only ever applicable if it is a bump and run, and say Roy loses one spot to yourself or he loses another spot to another competitor, but he keeps going. That's when a redress is acceptable. It's unsafe to pull up on the side of the road and wait for someone because it could have caused so much more carnage.
Tell you what, Hamish, it is definitely after 10 p.m. for these V8 Veterans drivers. As we're heading in, we've got 6 laps to go here, and it is starting to turn on. The incidents and the little damages and little loss of concentrations, but not for this guy out in front. Steve Lanyon, 5.6 second lead over Chad Weiger. Chad Weiger, P2 on track at the moment with a lead over Scotty Mackay, a big lead too. And you know, that's a hell of a drive by Lanyon and Weiger. Their strategy's been on point tonight, and yeah, really impressed the way they've gone about it and utilised that different style of racing where they weren't racing flat out, Hamish. They were saving fuel, they were playing their strategy, and they've made it work tonight.
Mate, they have put it to absolute perfection out there tonight. Lanyon's fuel strategy has been immense. Weiger's done well in amongst the pack, so has Scott Mackay. Wayne Shepherd, his fuel strategy alongside Stacey Boyd, Brent O'Brien as well. We have to figure out 4 names, Scotty. We have to figure them out. I'm going to say, without showing any favoritism, I'm going to put Troy Sipple's name forward. I think he deserves it tonight. He's been in some great battles. He's been fighting through the pack, and he's fought his way into the top 10, up 7 spots in the P6. Troy Sipple's my name that I'm going to put forward tonight for the Chubby Buns Burgers Driver of the Day. Who are you putting forward right now?
I think there's 2 drivers that I would like to put forward, but you know, obviously your driver there, Wayne Shepherd, up 20 positions into P9. Fantastic result. But the other one I'd like to put forward, Hamish, that I think is a really strong drive, is Jeremy Bush. At this stage, Locked On Lads Racing, he's up 22 positions into P13. That's an incredible drive by him, and really good to see him into that top 15, gaining so many positions on track.
I'll tell you what, we're going to do something unprecedented. We're going to put up 5 names. We're going to put up both the names that you listed. So I want to say, so you said Wayne Shepherd. You said Jeremy Bush. We're also going to put forward Steve Lanyon. He's had a great race. We're going to put forward Mick Clifton. And we're going to put forward Troy Sippel. Those are the 5 names. We want to see only those 5 names in the chat. Voting starts now until the end of the race. Till checkered flag flies. Get your votes in for driver of the day between Steve Lanyon, Wayne Shepherd, Jeremy Bush, Mick Clifton, or Troy Sippel. Get them into the chat. Let us know who you think deserves out of those 5 names, as we have 4 laps to go. It'll be 3 laps to go when Lanyon crosses the line. He's got this lead well in hand by 5 seconds over Chad Viger right now.
Yeah, he has. He's got this all to win and driving absolutely beautiful. A masterclass on strategy tonight by Lanyon. A different Lanyon to the seasons before, Hamish. That's why he's the front runner in this split 2 this season. That's why he's got the wins. He's absolutely figured out the Vets strategy, the Vets championship points, and driving absolutely superbly. And, Chad Viger, this is a really, really strong performance by him. Scott Mackay, he'll look back at this race as what could have been. At the moment, the podium, he'll be happy with that, absolutely no doubt. His first true showing in the ERT colour. I know we did the broadcast last week, but he didn't race under ERT banner last week. So this is his first outing with the ERT, a podium finish. He'd be happy with that. But some other strong performance. John Gallen, really, really good points for his championship, up 12 positions into P4. Luke Allman, what can you say? I mean, he dropped some positions at the start, Hamish, went backwards, fought back, up into P5. That is a really strong showing for Team AJR, and they're going to be super stoked with that, and a real good credit to Luke. He's coming on leaps and bounds for that team and really setting the standard for him at the moment. It's all up to the rest of the other split 2 guys to come and give him some support. So some really good drives so far tonight, Hamish.
Yeah, it's been it's kind of been a race of halves, hasn't it, Scotty? It was first part of the race a little bit chaotic, got into a rhythm. We had the safety car. Then it came down to that strategy. It got past the 10 p.m. marker, and all of a sudden, the Moz is then on people. We've had a couple of avoidable incidents happen throughout this one in the last half. It's been in chat just having it. We're now in the final act. The final act is we wait to get to the checkered flag. And Lanyon has won over the lead. He just has to keep it on the black stuff tonight. Viger, he just needs to run a consistent race, keep it ahead of Scott Mackay, and he's got that P2. Mackay just has to keep it ahead of John Gallen. He's got 3 seconds in hand. Could very easily do it. Gallen and Allman, they want to try and solidify that top 5. Sipple wants to solidify the 10. So does O'Brien, so does Boyd, so does Shepherd, so does Clifton. All these names in the top 10 have had an incredible race so far. They've had pretty consistent seasons across the board, you have to say. They've had 1 or 2 races where they've been a little bit, under the pressure or a little bit unlucky. But all in all 10 of those drivers have been some of the most consistent drivers this season in terms of being able to gain positions or in terms of being able to fight it out in the race, being able to overcome adversity. This top 10 right now, I think, solidifies split 2 this season. I'm not saying this is going to be the top 10 in the championship, but the current top 10, I think, if you were to talk about split 2, those are the 10 names you put forward of what this season has been like.
Yeah, absolutely. They have been towards the front, challenging each other. They've come under some incidents, some different, maybe perhaps wrong strategy calls at times, but they're going to grow from it. They're going to come back stronger and stronger each race. And, it has been truly very competitive season. Probably some other standout notes tonight. Hamish Reese DeGuy from Performance Sim Racing up 22 positions into P21. A cracking effort for him. He's under all sorts of pressure from Roy Clark and Brett Taylor at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see if he hangs on that position. Actually, there's quite a few cars in there. There's another trainer, 3 behind him. Scotty Weston in the EWR GMK Logistics up 17 into P19. Really good drive. Peter Baxter up 17 positions into P16. Coast to coast has got a podium to his name, a top 10 to his name. If he can get another position from here, top 15, he'd be very happy with that. So some really good performances throughout the field, with drivers making some ground.
Well, we've got 1.5 laps to go, Scotty, or 1 lap to go, in fact. Steve Lanyon is about to cross the line. He's about to cop the white flag from Barney. We're going to go racing for 1 more lap here tonight. It's white flag for Imola. And Steve Lanyon is on his way to his 4th win of the season. And with 3 rounds to go, Scotty, he has got the opportunity to break the record. Now, we have had 11 races this season, so it wouldn't really be... It'd have an asterisk on it. He would have taken 6 round wins with 7 race wins if he were to win the next 3, of course. But it is possible for him to do it, and he's showing consistency. He's showing pace. And right now, I think, between him and John Gallen, he's etching John Gallen to be the favourite for this championship right now. He has been at another level this season, And if he can drive like this next season in Split 1, I don't think we see him back in Split 2 for a long time.
Yeah, it's been an absolute masterclass performance. He took it up another level tonight, Hamish. That strategy, that's a different Steve Lanyon than what we've seen over the last couple of seasons. And yeah, it's been an absolute masterclass. Yes, John Gallen, he's been in super form. He's hit this purple patch, not only this league, other leagues been driving incredibly well. Iger, Mackay, gee whiz, it's a strong field. This is Lanyon's moment. He's heading down. He's only got a couple more turns to go, and this is his.
Well, we are not too far away down towards the Ravatsa corners for the final time. Steve Lanyon, he has been a cut above the rest the last couple of weeks, and it is now paid off with another race win in Split 2. Make it 4 this season. 3 round wins, 4 race wins. The only one to do the double at Belle Isle. He comes home P1 at Imola for round 7, and he will lead the championship into the final 3 rounds. Chad Viger P2 on the road, Scott Mackay P3, and John Gallen will come across the road in P4, up 12 positions in this race. Luke Ullman in P5, Troy Sipple will come home in P6, Brett O'Brien P7, Stacey Boyd is going to come round the Ravatsas now to take home P8, and it will then be Wayne Shepherd and Mick Clifton not too far behind him, making up the top 10.
Yeah, stellar drive. We see Edward Fox in P11. Only dropped 1 position, so he's working hard on his game. Dean Logsdale went for that early strategy call, like what your drivers did, lost 4 positions, P12. Jeremy Bush up 22 positions. Fantastic result for that driver, P13. Chris Burridge, what could have been? He was super fast tonight. Definitely could have had a podium. That went wandering back down at P14. Peter Baxter, P15. Congratulations, great effort for him. Peter Lathan, a solid drive, and that driver up into P16. Simon Farrington from Shadow Racing holds his own. Hamish up 4 positions into P17. Todd Duggan up 7 into 18. Scotty Weston, really good drive. Another driver with the EWR car there, up into P19, up 17 positions. Reese DeGuy from PSR, up 23 into P20. That rounds out your top 20 at the moment, Hamish.
Yep, and that was how they finished. We then had Roy Clark, Brett Taylor, Jason Spriggs, Matt Stoyles, Ray Smith making up the top 25, Damon Fisher, Peter Vermey, Sean Cullen, Scott McKenzie, Lorne Mackay making up the top 30, Will Munro, Jamie Peters, Daniel Sheriffs, Brennan Zatira, Robert Crow making up the final finishes to the final lap. Adrian Zeal unfortunately dropped out, but he did get 75% way. So did Michael Yeo. Matt Scholes was out, so was Michael Quain, so was Andrew Hoffman and Sean Vandermill. Unfortunately for Sean, he had technical issues with his wheel. He, in fact, did less laps this race than the safety car, and that is not a award you want to have next to your name, Scotty.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be interesting. I have to have a chat with Sean what actually happened with that. But really unfortunate for him. He did have a pit lane penalty start, and it went downhill from there, mate. There was got 1 lap, and that was it. So very unfortunate for Sean, but I'm sure he'll come back and bounce back bigger and stronger. But Steve Lanyon, oh Hamish, I am super impressed the way he drove that. He had the pace throughout the first 2 stints. He didn't use it. He sat back, saved fuel. He played the strategy. He knew exactly what he was doing tonight, and that was an absolute stellar drive by him.
Well, we have got a couple of podium finishes in here already in Scott Mackay, Steve Lanyon. I don't know how they've actually been able to... Oh, that's because we're in the green room for whatever reason, Scotty. What I'll do is I'll quickly drag us up to the broadcast room so then we don't have Mackay and Lanyon in together. Sorry about that. I realised we were in the green room, not in the broadcast booth for whatever reason. I was wondering why they were able to just straight up join us. But what we will do is we'll drag in Mr. Mackay first, who had P3 on the road. Mr. Scott Mackay, sorry about the confusion there. We just broadcasted the whole race in the green room for whatever reason. I didn't notice we weren't in the booth. But what a race from you tonight, mate. P3 on the road. You got to feel happy with that. And another good chunk of points for you. And the first race proper that you did for Evolution Racing Team, it's got to be a good feeling.
Yeah, absolutely good feeling to put the ERT car on the podium in the first race out for the boys. But it's it's really good to have someone like Brenton in your ear when the strategy needs to be made. It's pretty handy, I can tell you. That's why I'm there.
Yeah, it was a fantastic drive there. You had really good pace there, Scotty. perhaps the strategy didn't quite go your way. The other guys went with that extra fuel, maybe caught you out. But when you had that lighter car, you were setting down some blistering laps. And at that stage, when you were putting down those big laps before that last pit stop, did you realise that they may have had that that overcut on you with the fuel stop and the time they took under the safety car?
Yeah, absolutely, Scotty. I knew I was 9 seconds down at least on Chad, so I was trying to make that 9 second gap before I pit. I ran that tank as low as I could go, and then just had to bite the bullet and go in. I knew Steve was going to go past, but was hoping to minimise the damage. But it was a really tough race from the first couple of seconds. I bombed the start and went back 6 places. Then I got a slow down on lap 2, went back another 3 or 4, maybe even 5 places to 11th, I think it was. And then that first stint was just a mess for me. I just made so many mistakes trying to undo those mistakes, just pushing the car too hard. And then I thought at one point I'll just, I made a big mistake coming downhill into the second last corner. Nearly took out the 2 blokes in front of me, and I thought, I've just got to going to go and get some new tyres and calm the brain. And so I took an early pit stop, and unfortunately we got the safety car the very next lap, which is just, it's not, it wasn't a bad decision, it was just unlucky. So I pretty much had to do quality laps from then on.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was a great drive, and as Hamish said, your first outing in the ERT colours, P3. The team's going to be very happy with that. There's room to grow with it. There's things to learn from it. But you're driving absolutely beautifully at times there, Scotty. So really good to see you out there. Looks like you're having fun on track, and the new team environment, that's sure going to help you. So look forward to the rest of the season and the way you go about it, and pushing forward and definitely challenging, towards that front end like you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Scotty. It's an absolute pleasure and an honour to be driving for ERT. It was a bit of a surprise when Brenton made the offer, but just jumped on it because it's a massive learning opportunity. But I got to say, out the front, the pace of guys like Spriggsy and Burridge, it's on fire, literally on fire.
Well, Scotty, we've got a big round next week at Spa. How are you feeling going into that one? Of course, enduro action. You're still within this championship hunt. Just maybe trying to get those consistent podiums the next couple of rounds. How are you feeling going into next week, and then even into the last drop around the week after at Road Atlanta?
This week's going to be a really tough week because I've got a couple of things going on, but I love Spa as a track, but I've never really been that quick there. So hopefully I can find some pace there and keep up with these guys at the front. But I think it's an endurance round, I believe. So it's going to be more about making some good fuel saving strategies and whatnot. So I don't think outright pace will be the deciding factor next week.
No, I think I think you're right. I think it's going to be heavy strategy plays, picking when the safety cars may happen, and just trying to take advantage and just hoping for the best. But let us know, mate, who helps get you and Evolution Racing Team out on track. Anyone else you want to give a shout out to as well? And for myself and Scotty Gamble, congratulations on yet another P3 this season.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I want to thank ERT, obviously, and Logitech G. I don't really know what other sponsors there are. Sorry, boys. Figure that out as I go.
I'm sure Gamble knows them. He might be able to cover for you.
You have got Logitech G. They're your big sponsor over there at ERT. And not only a sponsor for ERT, but also a sponsor for V8 Veterans League here. So, yeah, they're absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the boys at ERT have been very, very welcoming. So thanks for that. Also, you blokes in the commentary box doing a fantastic job as always. Race control, awesome job. And congrats to Steve and Chad for brilliant race from both of those guys. And shout out to Hoffy and his family. Thoughts and prayers go out to you guys.
Very good, mate. Well, best of luck for Spa this week. Hopefully you can find a bit more pace out of the car, and hopefully the cards get dealt your way this week, and hopefully you can make the most of it. If we don't get a chance to speak to you next week, then, mate, best of luck in the final 2 rounds of the championship afterwards. We hope the best for you, mate. I think you're pretty well locked into this top 10, so this may be the final 3 rounds you race in Split 2 before returning to Split 1 next season.
I hope so. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks, mate.
I have to say, Hamish, wasn't that nice how he gave some credit to Lanyon and Vega and also a shout out to Hoffy, true gentleman there, mate. And, I like it when drivers do that.
Yeah, he's shown some true class in his interview there, and it's very, very good when we can get that happening. But what we are going to bring in now is not only our winner here tonight, but also voted by the chat. I have calculated the votes. Our Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day in Mr. Steve Lanyon. Steve, we got to talk about class. We got to talk about how much better you have been doing this season. Unbelievable. Not only do the Pies get the win at the G tonight by 3 points over the Blues. Sorry to put the moz on you there, nice. Scotty. But what a way for you to win this race, mate. 4 wins this season, 3 round wins. And you're looking like a proper contender for this championship going into the final 3 rounds.
Yeah, no, it was a bit like the Pies last year, hopefully. Yeah, keep winning away. Take the championship. So there we go.
I have to say, Hamish, I hope Steve isn't coming live from the NCG at the moment, mate, because gee whiz, that is hurting.
It sounds like he is.
I'm only about 300 metres from it, Scotty.
Now cutting live to the MCG with Steve Lanyon.
Live cross.
Yeah, pitch side reporter.
Oh my God! You just talk about
if you weren't a Carlton supporter, Scotty, I probably wouldn't have got on tonight. But it's all for you. All for you.
That's absolute gold, mate. I love it. You know what, Steve? I have to say, the way that you went about tonight, this is, and we talked about it in other races, but this is a whole new Steve Lanyon we're seeing this season. To be able to fuel save like you did in the first 2 stints and then just come out with a massive lead, have enough fuel and just power on to the end, was an absolute masterclass in strategy. Really well done. Is that something that, is that what you've done?
I definitely look at the start of the race, just jumped in behind Chad and Lorne, and then Lorne got a bit racy there at one stage, so I sort of said, well, off you go, we've got a long way to go, and jumped in behind him for a bit, and I was just trying to drive to a number, and then, I was always going to pit lap 17, and if we didn't have a safety car, and then safety car come, so I just thought, well, good opportunity, filled her up, and I thought we'll just see, jump in the draft again and see how it all plays out. So, it did go my way for sure.
You drove it absolutely beautifully and played out that strategy to perfection. It was probably one of the best strategies that I've seen in Split 2 since I've been in the booth here with Hamish. But all the best, mate, and well done to your Pies tonight. Good to see it is a Melbourne team. Puts them back into the 8, unfortunately, at the loss of my team. But anyway, good luck, mate. Enjoy your
good on, boys.
back home.
Good call. Catches.
See you, mate.
See ya. Bye.
That hurts, Hamish.
Don't worry, Scotty. I know your pain. I felt it at the biggest stage last year, but what could have been for both of our teams. But wow, what a championship we have forming up for us here into the final 3 rounds. Spa could very well be a championship molding race for us. That, I think, is going to be the cookie cutter that is going to give us the outline of what our championship fight is going to look like in the final 2 rounds at Road Atlanta and then in the undroppable round at Sandown in the final round. I think next week, if drivers cannot capitalise on the 300k race, capitalise on their strategy, capitalise on safety cars, everything that is going to encompass that race, obviously it's going to take a little bit of luck as well. But like Steve Lanyon, if he has a poor run next week, that could ruin his championship going into the final 2 rounds. He hasn't had many poor rounds this season, so if he's going to have a droppable one, he wants it to be in the next 2 rounds. And if it's going to happen, it probably has to be next week in the Enduro.
Yeah, see, Spa's a very interesting one. We've visited there quite a few times, Hamish, but 300 kilometres, it is brutal for off-tracks. You want to get gritty at Spa. I think we're going to see people get over the 17 incident limits there, Hamish, and that could really throw a curveball. Yes, it is another draft track, so how drivers go into that strategy after watching how Lanyon done it tonight on really what wasn't a draft track, but he made it work like a draft track. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go about it and how teams adapt to that kind of strategy with the last 3 rounds coming up.
Well, not just that as well. We also have to look at the fact of Eau Rouge and Radion could be a big spot at the bottom and the top of the hill for some big incidents to occur. Obviously, the off-tracks, as you mentioned, drivers have to be careful about not blowing their engine at the end of the Kemmel straight. They cannot get too greedy on those gears and at that full throttle as well. Blanchimont, going to be a big challenge. It's a fast-paced left-hander. They could very easily lose the rear end through that corner as well. There are so many spots around that Spa circuit that it could throw a few spanners in the works for sure, but only time will tell, and the answers will only get revealed as of next week when we do go racing once again here for Season 20, a split 2 of the Racecraft Simulations V8 Veterans. Big thank you goes out as well, of course, to all of our series sponsors, our title sponsor, Racecraft Simulations, our other sponsors as well, Logitech G, Play One Sim Gear, Südspeed Gloves, Chubby Buns Burgers for the Driver of the Day Award, Nova Simsports, as well as Parramatta Isuzu Ute. Thank you so much for supporting the series. If you guys haven't already, be sure to hit the like button, the subscribe, and the bell icon so you are notified whenever we go racing here on the V8 Veterans for Split 3 on Friday nights and Split 2 on Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time for Split 3 on the Fridays, 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time for Split 2 on the Saturdays. But for myself, Hamish Munro and Scott Gamble alongside once again, we thank you for your time. We thank you for being with us once again here on the V8 Veterans. We'll see you guys next time for round 8. Endurance action next week. 300 Ks around Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. It's going to be a big one. But until then, stay safe, drive hard, and as always, bye for now.
I ain't playing weak, no, I'm playing for keeps. Can't stop me, I'm a legend. I run with the crew that's making the moves. Get out of the way, we coming through. We got this, never stopping, and we won't lose. No, we can't lose. Yeah! Are you ready? Yeah! We are the legends. We are the legends. Yeah! Are you ready? We are the legends. We are the legends.
Introducing the Racecraft PT1, custom-built full-chassis racing simulator. The design project, codenamed The Cage, an 80/40 extrusion chassis sitting on top of a Sigma Integrale DK2 Plus 4-point full-motion actuator system. No compromises in the cockpit of the PT1 simulator. To maximize the experience, we start with the 49-inch ultra-wide monitor for the greatest field of view in a small footprint of the simulator, down to the SimuCube wheelbase that's tucked up and behind the monitors with SimCore extensions to get things out of the driving area. Everything is connected to a Cube Controls GTX steering wheel with the built-in dash and all the extra button functions available at your fingertips. Driving through the Raceworks S1 pedals, the potentiometer throttle and the 2 hydraulic pedals for brake and clutch ensures you maximize the feel underfoot, and seating yourself into an OMP HTER bucket racing seat with OMP belts connected to a G-belt tensioner to provide that extra feeling and the heightened experience while you're driving. Additional interfaces and accessories in the PT1, we have twin butt kickers, one on either side of the OMP seat, as well as a Jinx sequential shifter, the SimPush Race Logic timer to the left-hand side, a Racecraft built-in WinSim kit with Philips Hue lighting and a built-in soundbar, plus the OMP side net to finish off the experience in the PT1. The Racecraft PT1, build number 1, the ultimate in sim racing experience, combining the best products in the market with the passionate, no compromise approach that goes beyond racing simulation. Yeah, we work here.